Hello, and welcome to Back Through the Lens, where two film school friends talk about movies through the haze of nostalgia, the good, the bad, and the ones that aren't quite how we remember them. I'm your host, Rachel, and with me is my co host, Joe. Today's movie is The Breakfast Club.
It's mid-February in 1985. Wham's Careless Whisper is at top of the charts, Whitney Houston's debut album is released, and The Breakfast Club hits theaters. In this season, we celebrate films that turn 40 in 2025, the same year we hit that milestone. Welcome to Season 4.0.
Yeah. Yeah, start of a new season, start of a season full of movies that turned 40 in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Much like us.
Yep.
Yep.
We're going to just lean into that, I guess.
Yeah, why not?
We'll see if some of these movies age like a fine wine and some maybe like vinegar. We'll find out.
Is this at all related to your thoughts on how we are aging?
I mean,
I'd rather not be vinegar.
Yeah.
I think this was a good theme, but also when you brought it up, I was just like, God, we are so old. Like, what was 40 years ago when The Breakfast Club was made? That was the 40s? The 1940s?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I was like, what are you asking? Yes, yeah. 40 years ago from 40 years ago, yes.
That seems like such a different time than like 1985 versus now to me, but maybe that's me just trying to feel better about things.
I mean, probably a lot has changed, and we'll see as I think we'll watch some of these movies.
Mm-hmm.
For example, not to get too ahead of ourselves for this film, but no one's playing on their phones in study hall in Saturday school as we would probably see if we made it today.
Exactly, yeah. It's that thing I always have to remind myself when I'm watching older movies. Like, why don't they just call each other? Oh, wait, they cannot.
Yeah, right.
So speaking of Saturday school, was that still a thing when we were in school? Because I don't really remember that.
I don't remember Saturday school. I mean, there's been after school detention,
Right.
but I never had Saturday school. I did have a couple after school detentions, but I don't think I ever went on a Saturday.
I had lunch bunch at my school, and I had to do it once.
Lunch bunch?
Yeah, you went and ate your lunch in a separate room, and then instead of going out for recess, you just had to stare at a chalkboard for like half an hour.
That almost sounded like a good idea, except for that last part. Like, I totally want to go eat in a separate room away from all the heathens, but then,
Right.
like, the not doing anything besides staring at a wall sounds not so favorable.
I specifically remember the teacher who was running it saying things like, now you think about this, all your friends are having fun outside while you just stare at a chalkboard.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
At least, like, let me study, do my homework.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make any sense. I'm at school, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if they really do that anymore. Because I got lunch bunch because I had forgotten to do my math homework one time. And my son one time forgot to bring his math homework home. And I was like, so what happens if you like forget to do your homework? He's like, I don't know, nothing. And I was like, okay.
Hmm. Lunch bunch sounds a lot more fun than it actually was.
Yes.
Sort of like the title of this film.
Yes. And then they gave us homework. We had to write the alphabet like 10 times or something and bring it back
Were
to
you like in
school.
second grade learning how to write? What's going on here?
I don't know. I was in fourth grade.
I think you knew how to write by then.
It was also my birthday.
I got no follow up.
It was obviously not a great birthday for me, personally. So anyway.
I'm just like imagining
forgotten.
you in this scene in the movie where they're all like explaining the why they're there and everyone's like doing their thing. You're like, I didn't do my math homework.
I know.
It was my birthday. I said no math homework on my birthday.
No, actually, I had written the assignment down incorrectly, so I did the wrong math homework, which means I didn't have my homework done. And so then I got lunch bunch, and it also just happened to be my birthday on the day that I got lunch bunch.
See, you got in trouble for doing future math homework.
Yeah.
Wow. Rebel.
Could have been like Ali Sheedy. Like, I just didn't have anything better to do today. Okay, so anyway. Wait, why did you get detention?
I really don't remember. I'm 100% honest. I don't. It wasn't very often that happened. One time I had missed a recess because I was sticking up for a friend to a bully and kind of got in an altercation. Nothing
Hmm.
actually happened, but I had to sit aside instead of go to the gymnasium.
Oh,
But that was like during lunch. But after school attention, I forget why I was there. I just remember like being after school for an extra hour in a room with a bunch of other kids, and I did my homework and then I slept. It's like, okay, well, this is stupid.
yeah. I don't know what would have been a cool reason to get detention.
Not
Either.
math homework.
I know, right? Yeah, I literally did math homework and they still gave me detention. This is really unfair now that I'm thinking about it. But anyway, all right. On that note, today's movie is The Breakfast Club, directed by John Hughes, released February 15th, 1985, rated R.
What do a high school princess, a jock, a nerd, a weirdo, and a rebel all have in common? No, that isn't a setup for a joke, but the premise for the 1985 classic. Inside their school's library, these five teenagers find out that, despite their superficial social hierarchy, they have a lot more in common than they thought. Hint, it's not just Saturday school.
Did you realize this was rated R?
I think I realized it because I wrote it down, but then forgot all about it. Then I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, is this one of these situations where it should be PG-13 and it's not?
Well, I guess we'll get into this with me not really remembering the first time I ever saw it because it was just on TV all the time, I feel. It was on cable all
Yeah.
the time. And obviously, I knew there was swearing, I knew there was some sexual stuff. I guess I was still surprised it was R, but as we will discuss, I'm starting to wonder if I've only ever seen the TV edit
Hmm.
before this rewatch. Yeah, I don't know. I also think it's just strange sometimes when teen movies, when that's your target audience, when they're rated R, because you know they won't be able to go to the theater themselves.
Well, I don't know. We've talked about this before, and I guess it depends on the super specific age you're going for. I don't know about 1985, but when we were growing up, I think at 17 you can buy your own ticket.
Oh,
So if you're going for like the later teens into like early adulthood, maybe, but these kids seem a little younger than that, so I would assume maybe like the 14 to 16 crowd, and they would need permission.
okay.
So it
Yeah.
is kind of tricky, like, okay, this is R, but it's also felt really real. Like, these kids are swearing, nothing too crazy for the most part, but like that's what kids do.
Yeah,
It's not like, you have a PG world in high school.
that's true. Um,
But yeah, it is tricky when you give it a rating like that, and it is about five younger teenage kids.
yeah, I just think it's funny sometimes when you hear these stories about studios really gunning for either an R or a PG-13 for various reasons, or a PG, I guess, in the time period that we tend to be talking about. But a lot of it is so that it can be more accessible. But then sometimes they do want an R rating because they're worried that it won't seem cool enough for younger people to go see. So it's hard to say.
Sometimes the like that edginess of R will get the kids to want to go more.
Exactly. Or at least the
Like,
studio thinks so.
well, right, but
Yeah.
like realistically, can you imagine like, well, you might have only seen the TV cut, so who knows? Maybe you can't imagine this, but like Bender just being edited out the entire movie, like, oh frick, 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 wouldn't be believable.
We'll get into all this. um Okay. So yeah, that being said, I don't remember the first time I actually saw this start to finish. I feel like I just always knew about the Breakfast Club, and I know I would catch it on cable a lot, like I said. Usually if it was on, I would just keep it on while I did homework or whatever. And I do think though, looking back, that's probably how I watched it most often because I realized on this rewatch, I know everything that's going to happen for the most part, but I had the order of things completely wrong.
Hmm.
And like 10 minutes were left of the movie and I was like, "Wait, they haven't done the makeover yet. Like, where is everything?" And I think I would just come into it at all these random times and I never maybe actually sat down and watched the whole thing start to finish.
I would say that's probably my understanding of the movie too, for the most part. A lot of John Hughes' other movies, as we kind of talked about behind the scenes here, some of them I get a little muddled because they're very similar. I haven't watched
Mhm.
them as much. I wouldn't say I've watched Breakfast Club very often either. I think I saw it a lot of times on TV as well, different parts like you've mentioned, but I know for sure I've seen it at least once unedited on TV. It has been a long time.
Mhm. Like you said too, I'm sure that my friends and I rented it a few times and I saw it all the way through, but we'll get into it. But before we start talking about the history of how the Breakfast Club got made, we do talk about John Hughes' early writing career in episode 26, which is about National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. But for this episode, we're going to pick up in, I guess, around 1982, which is when John Hughes first wrote the script. A few articles I read about getting the Breakfast Club made said that he actually wanted to make this immediately, but for some reason the studio said, no, we like 16 Candles better. We're going to make that first. And then he sort of got a tepid, "Oh, okay, you can do this now because 16 Candles did somewhat well. Also had conflicting reports as to how well 16 Candles did. So, like, maybe the theatrical run wasn't great and then word of mouth grew. So, 16 Candles was his directorial debut. He had written quite a few movies before then, particularly Vacation and Christmas Vacation, correct?
Yes.
Did he
Or at
do
least story by
Story by? Hmm.
as far as the credits go. And
So, his script for The Breakfast Club was originally called The Lunch Bunch, and he heard of a friend's detention that he had when he was a kid that was in the morning and it was called the Breakfast Club. And he thought that sounded better, but he was a little concerned that it didn't exactly fit because they're obviously in detention all day long in the movie. It's Saturday school, but he just figured no one would really care that much.
I think he was right.
Yep. I'll admit I did have a moment at the end of the movie where I was like, wait, why is it called the Breakfast Club? But, things I don't really need to think too hard about.
It sounds pretty cool. Breakfast Club.
Sounds better
Like
than
I
the lunch bunch.
like I want to start a breakfast club, like meet monthly and get pancakes and eggs and bacon.
Sounds great, actually. Production didn't begin until 1984, after John Hughes kind of proved he could direct a movie with 16 Candles. The studio was still very hesitant about this because he was a newer director. They trusted him as a screenwriter, though. He said, worse, there were no bare breasts, no party scenes, no guys drinking beer, the things they thought a teenage picture needed. I think I have somewhere else in the notes that the studios were really stuck on kind of a Porky's style teen movie. I feel like
Mm,
Porky's is always what's brought up as the example here, at least in this period.
I don't know why.
I think they just thought everything had to be raunchier. They talk a lot about National Lampoon magazine, that was the culture at the time, or the teen culture, maybe.
Sure. Hmm.
The studio literally said kids would not sit through this. John Hughes said that he was able to convince them to give him a chance because it was relatively low risk. It was one filming location and the budget was only $1 million.
Nice.
I think that is hands down the lowest budget we have ever discussed.
It has to be.
Yeah. But John Hughes said throughout the whole process, Universal never got the movie. Not sure really why they let him. I don't know. They were like, let John Hughes play around with $1 million. I don't know.
I feel like it's a situation where they already trust him as a writer, like you said. He had some mild success as a director,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of maybe to appease him so he can just keep writing scripts for them to make into movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, well, we don't get the movie. We're only going to give you $1 million. If it fails, it fails. It's low risk for Universal to lose $1 million to make
Mm-hmm.
John Hughes happy. And then if it fails, like, well, see, maybe you should just write movies, John. And
Yeah.
then he cranks out more scripts and then they
Mm-hmm.
make more money. Why not? And if it's successful, then they only spend $1 million. So they really aren't at a loss either way.
Yeah. Interested to reveal to you how much money it made
Yeah.
for their
Um,
$1 million input.
Also, the kids won't sit through it. Again, target audience, rated R. What kind of kids won't sit through it? The same kids that might see like an animated deer go through the woods, or maybe someone a little older? Because
Yeah.
when I hear kids won't sit through it, I think of maybe your son's age
Yeah.
versus like a teenager. I don't know, different use of nouns, I guess.
Or how kids wouldn't sit through the sad song in the Muppet Christmas Carol, but then similarly, they will not sit through the Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
So John Hughes already had Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall in mind. He had just worked with both of them in 16 Candles. Conflicting reports about whether Molly Ringwald originally wanted to play Allison or if John Hughes wanted her to play Allison, but she was in some way attached to the character of Allison first. Claire was originally named Kathy in the original script. Molly Ringwald said in a later interview that she wanted to play the popular girl because it was different from what she had done before. Like she was usually playing the outcast. And apparently Ali Sheedy, who went on to get the role of Allison, was saying something like, well, thank God, because I would have had no idea how to play Claire.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. A few actresses that did audition for the role of Claire before it was Molly Ringwald's: Robin Wright, who we just talked about in The Princess Bride, Laura Dern, who we obviously discussed in Jurassic Park, Jodie Foster, and Diane Lane.
Huh.
Yep. Apparently, I did not realize this. John Hughes was very close with both of these actors, Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall. Anthony Michael Hall would sleep over his house all the time, like his house in Chicago, and they would joke all the time that Anthony Michael Hall was like his third son because John Hughes had two sons that were actually his.
There actually
That were
is.
actually his. Molly Ringwald is usually seen as being his muse. Some other articles called it a mentor protege relationship. Either way, people all seem to agree that she really had his ear, is how they put it. She could really convince him to make changes in the script or whatever she felt would work better. He seemed very interested in her feedback. There was actually supposed to be a part in The Breakfast Club where Vernon, who is it the vice principal that's there for to
I
watch
don't know if
over
he
the
was
Saturday
the
school?
vice or a regular principal. I don't even know.
Okay.
I thought he was the
Um
principal, but I don't think it matters.
okay. So he was going to somehow be in a situation where he was spying on the female swim coach and she was going to be swimming naked in the school pool. But basically, the studio wanted something like this in there because, again, they kept referencing Porky's and raunchier teen comedies. And it basically sounded like Molly Ringwald thought this was really unnecessary and silly. And he was very concerned when she mentioned that she didn't really like this added part with the nudity. And she said the next day he brought in a stack of scripts to the rehearsal room and we literally just went through them, all of us. He ended up cutting out the teacher thing and he put all this other stuff back in. The script we actually filmed was much closer to what we had originally read. From what I understand, too, John Hughes did not like rewrites at all. And
I can
he
see that.
was very insecure about critiques. So it sounded like this must have really messed with him for the studio to be like, add this stuff. And then particularly his muse, Molly Ringwald, was like, no, this is bad, take it out.
Oh, I'm glad they did because that just seems weird to me.
It does seem unnecessary, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, why would she even be there anyways?
Why would she be there? Why would she be swimming naked at the school pool?
Yeah, that gets used on some sort of list, like you can't be doing that kind of stuff.
Exactly, yes. But yeah, there was something about there was going to be a secret hole in the wall where he watched them or something.
That's exactly like Porky's. Get out of here, studio.
Yeah. Emilio Estevez was initially going to play John Bender. Hughes recast him as Andrew eventually because he couldn't find anyone he felt could play Andrew. But then they had a huge search for who could actually play John Bender. Oh, he also changed the character of Andrew. He was going to be a football player, but once Emilio Estevez was cast, they changed him to a wrestler because they felt like he had more of the body type of a wrestler than a football player.
Yeah,
Um, Nicolas Cage was considered for Bender, and then John Cusack was eventually cast as Bender. But somehow Hughes was convinced that John Cusack wasn't intimidating enough. I think everyone was very impressed with Judd Nelson's audition. They said he came in totally in character in the outfit and everything.
oh, nice. Well,
Hmm.
that'll do it.
Yep.
I would say, though, out of all these casting possibilities in other universes, I could see both Nick Cage or Cusack. It'd obviously be different takes, but
Yes.
I can see both of them. I don't know if Bender necessarily has to be super intimidating. I also think Cusack could play that as well, though.
Hmm. I could see both of them fitting with this cast too.
Yes,
Yeah. Apparently, though, Judd Nelson almost got himself fired because he stayed in character the whole time and was constantly harassing Molly Ringwald, much like his character does in the movie. And especially because John Hughes was so close with Molly Ringwald, he was very protective of her. He was like, this can't stand. He has to go. And apparently, the entire cast got together to convince him to keep Judd Nelson. But they also had to bring in Judd Nelson's manager to convince him to ease up on everything.
fair enough.
Yep.
Compromise. Okay.
Hmm.
Judd, you're
Uh,
great. Quit being as great.
right.
If I'm not mistaken, weren't most of them older, and then Molly and Anthony were like actual teenagers?
Yeah, they were 15 or 16, and then everyone else was 20.
Not a huge difference, but I guess when you're like in character and you're harassing a 16-year-old, it kind of makes a difference.
Yeah, and legally there's a difference with what's appropriate and how they can be treated in the workplace and whatnot. So the entire movie was filmed at Maine North High School in, is it Des Plaines, Illinois?
Displanes, deplanes. That sounds like Fantasy Island.
No. Yes.
I'm reading it as deplanes, but I don't know.
Oh,
I can't not say that without that accent. Shot in Illinois.
shot in Illinois. The school had closed a few years earlier. The library in the school was actually not large enough to film everything in, so they rebuilt the entire library in the school gym.
That answers future questions in our script. Yes,
Yes. They apparently made it all look like the actual library, just on a larger scale.
that's impressive.
I saw in a couple articles that this was apparently shot at the same time as Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but I didn't see a lot of conversation about that when people were actually interviewed, so I'm not 100% sure on that. But the entire movie was shot in 32 days.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Oh, also, John Hughes shot the entire movie in order, kind of by accident, because he just wasn't thinking about doing it any other way.
It kind of works in the favor, though, if you're all in one location.
I did read some commentary that for the costumes, if you notice at the beginning, everyone's in layers and they kind of slowly each shed some clothing as it goes on. And a lot of times when you film things, you group it based on location and based on costume and the look and whatever at the time. And you didn't really have to worry about that as much with this. And considering the costumes change a little bit as you're going through the story, maybe that did make the most sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense to me. Kind of when you're saying that, though, kind of jogged my memory of when we talked about I Know What You Did Last Summer, and they added a scene because she wasn't wearing a top, and I don't know. Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
There was something about her sweat. I don't even remember
she
now.
forgot to wear a sweatshirt, or they didn't show her take it off, so they had to add a scene for her to take it off.
Yeah, the
which doesn't
continuity
make
got
any
messed
sense.
up.
Yeah, I don't
No.
know. I don't think that's the actual thing that happened. Um,
There were actually, we'll get into this, but a lot of things were cut out of the final cut of The Breakfast Club just because it was so long. And John Hughes ended up using lines he had originally written for The Breakfast Club in Ferris Bueller because he still thought they were great lines. They still fit with kind of a teenage sensibility, how they view the world, how they view adults. Okay. So we start our movie with Don't You Forget About Me playing, which we will discuss in a bit.
yeah, probably. I don't know. I would argue that song might be more popular or more famous, maybe, from this movie than the movie itself.
I don't think I realized that the song was literally written for the movie.
I didn't realize that either.
Yeah. Simple
Hmm.
Minds is the band. They were just contracted to perform it, like to record it. Yeah, I just thought they just used a lot of 80s songs in this movie because it was of the time.
Right. I thought the exact same thing, but I guess they made it of the time intentionally.
Yes.
But while that's going on, man, this intro, besides the song, uh, first of all, the Universal logo, God, that looks so dated. You would mention what was 40 years from this year. Like, wow, it's such a different time. Like that to me, this logo that I'm seeing right now, when this movie opens up, reminds me of like 40 years ago. I was like, how this did they not update the Universal logo until like 2000? What's going on here? It looks so bad and great. Like I feel like this movie needs like a remastering or something because there's parts of it that did look a little dated as far as
Hmm.
the technology goes behind the scenes. Little polishing of the film itself would have gone a long way.
Mm-hmm.
But as the song's going in, we get the entire cast credit. Like we're just sitting there reading name after name after name,
Right.
which is an interesting choice while this song's playing. But I guess if you write a song for the movie, you better make damn sure your audience hears it.
Yeah. Yeah, I do actually appreciate when it's not just used over the closing credits. It's
Yeah,
actually used somewhat in the movie. Your quibble with the Universal logo, I could not get over the David Bowie quote that shatters.
can't remember what the quote was because it's almost too long to read because I'm
Yes,
not
I had to
prepared
pause it.
for. Yeah, I'm not prepared for an entire screen of text. Hughes, thank you. And then like I don't even know if it made sense with the movie because I just then you get so distracted because it literally just like explodes
Yeah,
and not in a fun way. Also, this is not a Michael Bay movie. Why are things exploding?
it's
Um.
the teen angst is causing it.
Oh, I sure. I had adult angst watching how cheesy this was.
Apparently, Ali Sheedy introduced John Hughes to whatever David Bowie song that is. I'm so sorry, I'm not familiar. He apparently learned a lot about current, or I guess what was current in 1985 music. He was a huge music fan. He had like a huge vinyl collection. He would make people mixtapes. They said in later years he would literally buy early iPods for people and just fill them with songs. And that was sort of his way of making a mixtape in that era. So super into music, very knowledgeable, but I guess Molly Ringwald got him into new wave. That's what was popular then, like post-punk new wave music.
Yeah.
But Ali Sheedy introduced him to this David Bowie song in particular.
Okay.
You have a question here wondering why Anthony Michael Hall is the character narrating.
Yes. And then
My
I have an edit remembering why.
okay.
Well, to be fair, it took me almost the entire length of the movie to go, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because he writes the paper. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's been a long time since I've seen this. It's not
Yes.
one of my repeat viewings, and I know there's five kids, and it starts out after the David Bowie explosion with his voice almost right away. I'm like, out of the five kids, why is it him? And then it took me almost right before they say, hey, why don't you just do the paper? Like, eventually, as they're starting to become friends, I'm like, oh, I remember now. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Sorry, I didn't realize you answered your own question. I didn't read
Hey,
ahead.
that's okay.
So when we open, with that voiceover, we're just seeing various shots of the school. We get one shot of a kind of a wall of fame sort of thing. They call it Man of the Year. Did you catch that the Man of the Year in the center is the janitor?
No, I
Like
don't think
back
I
from
did.
when he went to that high school.
Right.
I did not catch this. There was a lot about the janitor's character that was cut, which we will get into. But in one of the interviews I read where they discuss how much of his dialogue was cut, getting into more of his backstory, they mentioned that, he was the big guy on campus or whatever when he was in high school. So I went back to double check, and yes, he is right there in the center.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
These quick clips of the kids all getting dropped off or arriving, however they get to school. I thought this was so funny when Brian is being dropped off and his mom's saying, Mister, you figure out a way to study. And he's kind of arguing with her that they're not supposed to do anything. They're just literally supposed to sit there. And, made me think of my own lunch bunch experience and how silly this all is. Like, not really sure what. I guess I don't know what the presiding thought process was on like discipline at the time, but it just seems very worthless.
Yeah, well, they had a paper to write, I guess, as
Sure.
like a form of reflection on their bad deeds, I suppose. Also, just realized that your punishment was lunch bunch. What
Hmm.
inspired Hughes to write Breakfast Club was lunch bunch for his friends.
Hmm.
I've never heard of lunch bunch until today. What is going on?
You never heard of Lunch Bunch?
Well, we got in trouble with just detention. It wasn't lunch bunch.
Yeah, they called it Lunch Bunch, which
Hmm.
you're right, does make it sound a little more fun than what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the mom and the sister in the car were his real life mom and sister.
Nice.
Yeah. If you notice at the end, his dad who picks him up is John Hughes.
Oh, I didn't. I don't think I knew what he looked like.
Yeah. I did because of all the articles.
Right. Also, I don't think I paid attention to when he was getting picked up. It's so quick.
Yeah, it is.
Or maybe I'm thinking. I think I'm thinking of Andrew's dad actually. So I'll have to go
Oh,
back and
yeah.
check that out.
To be fair, everyone else is making out before they get picked up except for Brian. So Brian's is very quiet and just like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like seeing them all arrive, and at first it's repetitive as far as the how.
Hmm.
All the kids get dropped off via car, minus Bender, who just walks in front of a car. By the way, you don't
Yes.
care,
He does not
and
care.
of course his parents aren't going to bring him there. It's actually amazing that he shows up at all, thinking of his character. But
I
the
had that thought too. I'm surprised he
yeah,
even shows up for these commitments.
right. But three out of the other four kids that arrive in the car, their parents take them, and they're all in the front seats. Like you see Anthony Michael Hall, Brian, with his sister and mom, all in the
Hmm.
front seat together.
Yes.
Obviously, Andrew and Claire are in the front seat. They don't have any siblings sitting next to them. Then
Right.
we see interaction with their parents and them leaving,
Hmm.
where Allison gets dropped off. We don't see the inside of the car at all, and she exits through the back seat. The car just drives off before she can say goodbye.
And did you catch? I did not catch it the first time. I actually went back to rewatch the beginning a little because I saw your notes and I wanted to see if I could catch the portrait of the gym teacher or of the janitor. Allison leans over to say something to her parents in the front seat and then they drive away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did see that. So it's just right away we get a lot of good character building.
Hmm. Yeah, and I had forgotten about that bit later in the movie when they're all kind of going back and forth on whether to believe her about that because she says they ignore her, I believe, and they're all deciding whether to believe her that she actually has a bad home life.
Right.
And I think when you first watch that opening, you think they're just like it almost comes off as a joke, like, oh, these people are just not paying attention. But maybe it's something deeper than that.
I think so.
Oh, I also thought it was funny that when Andrew is being dropped off, his dad says no one's going to give a scholarship to a discipline case. I get the sentiment of what he's saying because we know that his parents are pushy and him being an athlete is his ticket to college, obviously. But the slang or the names they use for some of these things, I think, are so silly. And I don't know if it's of the time, but I don't think I've ever heard the phrase discipline case.
No,
No. I also
but
never really heard the phrase basket case used much outside of this movie.
I've heard of it. I don't think it was something people were just throwing around all the time, but I think
Hmm.
that's more common than disciplinary case or whatever he said.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I've heard basket case before, but I don't think I've really heard it used to describe someone. I don't know. It just some of these phrases they come up with, I'm like, is did people talk like this?
I would guess yes. Yeah, probably.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think I'd have to watch like all of Hughes's movies in a row to see if the language persists. To see if like is it just a Hughes thing? Is it of the time? Is it just for this
Surprise, this is
movie?
just how John Hughes talked.
Maybe it is.
I mean, now when I think of basket case, I think of Green Day, so
Well, yes,
by the way, when they keep calling John's character Bender, I think of
yes,
Futurama.
yes, yeah.
Ah, that made it a little difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Okay.
I'm like, wait, he's not a robot?
Still being sarcastic though. I don't know if I've just never picked up on some of these little like things, these little windows into their characters, but I was laughing so hard when it's toward the beginning when they're all sitting there after the principal or vice principal, whoever he is, tells them they have to write this essay about who they are. And Brian is sitting there like chewing on his pencil, saying, "Who am I? Who am I?" And then he gets like the pencil stuck to his lip and he's like, "I'm a walrus."
Yeah,
Um,
I thought how annoyingly loud Allison's nail biting was.
yes.
Not as in like if I was there that would annoy me, but like as a viewer of a film, like that is not realistic to me and it annoys me. And it sounded
Yeah.
just like it was the same sound effect they're using for the pen clicking, and that bothered me too.
Oh, yeah. But yeah,
At
you're
least it was
right.
very similar that
Hmm.
it was so close and it bothered me.
I didn't even think about that, but you're right.
Also, just how large this library detention room is just mind blowing. And obviously, with behind the scenes, like you said, they built it in a
Yeah.
gymnasium, but still, like to view it and suspend disbelief and go, "This is where they're at detention." It's like, man, that seems like a privilege. If anything, this place looks nice.
Hmm. I think they felt that they needed different areas of the library for different scenes to happen to make it a little more visually interesting. And they felt that's why they felt like they needed a bigger space. But yeah, I agree. This is an enormous library.
Like this is like almost like they're in the city library, not the school library.
Yeah, exactly. Just really rich suburb.
Hey, I mean, if we know anything about John Hughes, he likes writing about upper Chicago suburbs.
Yeah. So, did you realize, and I'm sorry if we already talked about this in a previous John Hughes episode, this town that he's made up in Illinois, Shermer,
Yeah, something like that.
something like that,
Shermer.
where the Breakfast Club takes place, that's where all of his movies take place.
I did not know that.
Okay, yeah. So he had mentioned in a couple interviews that in his mind, like John Bender lives down the street from John Candy's character in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. He has this whole imagined town in his
Okay.
writings. And then it's like to him, he pulled out certain characters to then write screenplays about. But
Okay.
in his mind, they all live in the same town.
I like it.
Hmm.
So almost like a Hughes-averse.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay.
Basically, yes. When they're talking about clubs, like joining clubs, and it gets to Andrew's telling them all to shut up and stop talking because they're supposed to be quiet, right? And he's worried he's going to get into further trouble and miss his wrestling match and, lose his varsity athlete status, lose his shot as a scholarship, all this. They bring up something about him wearing tights. And Brian's like, wait, you really wear tights? And the way that Emilio Estevez says shut up is so funny to me. I never clocked this before. But then also very jarring, at least for me, to have Andrew then call Bender the F word.
When we say
I don't
F word,
know.
we're not saying fuck.
Yes,
I will say that all day long.
there you go.
Well, first, while we're gonna go back a little bit, when we're seeing shots of the school, we see that word on his locker. I feel like that was jarring to me because that I felt was used in a different way than when Andrew says it. And I don't know why I think that. I feel like there
Mm.
are different times when certain words mean different things.
Mm-hmm.
In that moment, I felt that. But then Bender comes back with, well, I don't roll around with men on mats. It's like,
Right.
oh, what did he mean it that way now? Because I didn't think he did. But Bender might have taken it as such. But also, Bender is really good at quipping back and putting you as the enemy.
Mm-hmm. That's true too. But I do agree with you that a lot of times, especially teenagers, will use words or phrases that have one type of meaning. And like you said, how when we were younger, people called things gay all the time, but that's not, they didn't mean literally gay, like homosexual. On the completely opposite side of things, I forgot how little Allison talks at first. She literally just squeaks, but I also just forgot how weird she is. Like, maybe I always remember the bigger scenes, like, because, Bender's really loud and Molly Ringwald has so much more screen time compared to Allison. Just this little bit in the beginning where, Vernon comes in and he's all mad and he asks what's going on. And she literally squeaks and puts her head down in a way that her whole hood like covers her, like she's hiding from everyone. And someone has to say, she doesn't talk, sir.
You're right, yes.
Like she's a Charlie Brown adult or something.
Yeah.
I do like this part where, because I mean, this whole time, obviously, Vernon is just going off the rails already. And I think as a younger person watching this, it's like, okay, yeah, obviously that guy's a dick, right? But then watching it now, as someone who is probably closer to his character's age, I'm still like, yeah, he's a dick, but also like, what did you think you were going to get out of this situation here? Like, it's just so confusing to me. And I'm not saying this didn't happen because I feel like this is how discipline was viewed at that time. I do feel like it was that whole ethos of, well, I'm the adult and I said so. And if
Yeah.
you dare question me, if you dare talk back, but I like this little turn where he's having Andrew help him prop the door open and he moves, I think it's a magazine rack
Yeah.
to, because the chair is too light to prop the door open, moves the magazine rack. Bender points out it's a fire hazard, and then Vernon immediately blames Andrew for it and is all like, oh, you should know better. I expected more from a varsity letterman. And
Yeah.
Andrew's just like, what the hell? Doesn't say anything back, but I like this little chink in his armor, I guess. I'm not sure what exactly to call it. But you see this bit of him actually not knowing what he's doing.
Yeah. Bender definitely knows how to get under his skin.
That
And yeah,
too.
it's kind of silly the I'm adult, I tell you what to do, you do it. And I think for Vernon, what's important here for him doing that is because you have Bender. And you'll always have at least
Mm-hmm.
one Bender.
Yeah.
But what you don't want is five Benders.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
siding with Vernon, but if I can understand the psychology for a second, is he's
Mm-hmm.
just lashing out and giving him detention after detention after detention for the next 2 months because the other ones don't want to be there. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like Andrew
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want to lose his scholarship. He doesn't want to get in trouble, miss his matches.
Mm-hmm.
Brian wants to study and do, everyone has other reasons to not be there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Vernon's just making sure that he's throwing his big boy pants around and
Mm-hmm.
making sure everyone
Yes.
knows, like, hey, you guys all want to speak up and side with this guy. He's basically making Bender the bad guy. Like, don't
Of course,
even
yeah.
side with this guy, which they do when he takes the thing out of the door to make it close.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the scene that follows it. Like, the door's closed, no one's admitting what happened, and he knows Bender has it, and he knows everyone's trying to just be good kids on both sides of the fence. Like, they don't want
Mm.
to no one wants to be a rat,
Right. Of
but no
course,
one else
yeah.
wants more Saturday school. So he's just using Bender as an example, which is
Yeah.
pretty shitty, but still, like, I think that's the whole situation going on here.
Yeah. But then I think this is where we start the exchange where Bender won't stop talking back and he gets so much more Saturday school. You
Yes,
can
exactly.
and you can see Bender's insecurity too in some of the comebacks, which I think is part of what makes Judd Nelson's performance in this like so great. He's not just
Yeah.
like one note tough guy. Like he actually does kind of care about some things. And you can see that coming through in some of his lines.
Yeah, I feel like this whole sequence, besides making him the bad guy as far as the other students are concerned at this moment, it also leans a little bit into this is a little bit of a facade.
Yeah.
But as far as Vernon goes, does he like being it's like work 6 days a week? Because he has to be here every time he has like Saturday school. He's here. He's like, you're with me for the next 2 months. Why, sir? Have a day off. Like, why? What are you doing there?
Yeah, do you know how little I would care if some kid said I dressed like Barry Manilow? Like that, to your point, it's a lame insult that now means Vernon has to go work on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So even if the other kids were acting up, he would just give them all Saturday school, which he apparently likes to do. So
right.
I don't know. It's weird.
No, it's a good point. But yeah, this is the bit where you can tell Bender's even struggling to kind of come up with ways to remain defiant. Like he kind of runs out of comebacks. But I also, on the other side of it, wish that Vernon, as an adult and like an authority figure, and I think this is like of the times, like we go into Bender's backstory later on, and it's like he never really had a chance with the parents he got stuck with, right? I wish that there was a little more nuance to how he was being dealt with, I guess, than just Vernon being like, oh, he's just trying to impress people. He thinks he's too cool. And it's like, maybe, but also like maybe he's just like a teenager.
Yeah, I would say both those things can be true.
Yeah. I do like when Brian recounts how many Saturday schools he's earned. He's like, no, no, because there's that other one where he said that you raided Barry Manilow's closet.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to get in trouble, Brian.
Yes. Poor Brian. He's just trying to be helpful.
The beginning has the famous song, like you said,
Hmm.
but for most of this movie, there is a severe lack of music. And it's actually
Mm.
really nice. It's a lot of just kids talking and the story being pushed through the kids. When Vernon is leaving in this situation, after Bender is realizing he put himself in a boiling pot of water,
Hmm.
Vernon's leaving, the door's closing, there's a swell of brief music, and it's between that and the door slamming, we can barely hear Bender yell, fuck you, and it's all timed perfectly.
Yes.
Um, I love that part. But then
Hmm.
on the other side of the door, Vernon has a moment where he looks like upset or sad or remorseful that that whole situation happened. It's a quick beat. Like the door's
Hmm.
closed. He probably heard Bender scream because, unlike the audience, he doesn't hear the music,
Right.
and I'm sure that door isn't that loud. And he looks. I think in most part he looks just disappointed. Maybe not in like the situation that just happened, but just like the kid still didn't learn anything. Now, was it the best way to teach somebody
Hmm.
respect? Maybe he's thinking about that too. But he seemed like a disappointed parent for a second in my eyes. Very quick. Then he walks away. But
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I could not decide whether I felt he was disappointed in Bender or himself or realizing basically everything he just did didn't really matter or work in the long run in
yeah,
terms of
it
changing
didn't
this kid's
register.
behavior. Yeah, I always remember that scene where he yells "fuck you," and it's like you said, it's kind of muffled because of all the sound going on, probably on purpose, because it makes everything sound a lot more intense. Um,
Yes.
but also, I specifically remember watching that with it bleeped, or just
Oh
like
God.
not even bleep, but when they would just cut the sound for a swear
Yeah.
word on TV. I always remember it being that, and I remember watching it at some time on video or DVD or whatever, where I'm like, oh, you really can hear the word, because I always was like not sure if the music like just swelled so much that you couldn't hear it, or if it
Right.
was edited for television, which now I have my answer. But I had a quote from John Hughes. Vernon is based on a teacher I had in high school, a wrestling coach. He had no idea how much I hated him. He flunked me in gym. I ran into him when I was shooting another movie, and he said, I saw that Breakfast Club movie. It was pretty good, but Jesus, that teacher was an asshole.
Ha!
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
We get into another montage of, however they're all spending their time. That little shot of Andrew playing with his hoodie strings, I always think of this when, like, especially if I'm wearing a hoodie, like after washing it and the strings get all messed up and I'm trying to even them out. I always think of this little part.
That's fair. That's another scene they show without context a lot of times in these montages of movies from the 80s or stuff like that, or
Yeah.
the Brat Pack. You just always see him doing that. Everyone knows where that's from.
Yes. Fun teen 80s
But
movies. Yeah.
yeah, hoodie strings.
That's well, we'll get into the marketing a little bit, but I went back and rewatched the trailer, the original one. First of all, talk about things needing to be touched up, because
Yeah,
oh
I
boy.
watched the trailer too. Yeah,
Okay, yeah, and
it
it
was.
really
Whew.
was just a montage of little bits where it just looks like they're having a bunch of fun in the library instead of like doing their
Yeah.
detention. Yeah.
This Valentine's Day, Saturday school gets a lot more fun. That's what it felt like.
So is that what kids did before phones? They played with their hoodie strings
I mean, Allison makes art and
with
then
her.
puts dandruff on it, which is, I mean, that was a lot of dandruff. That was kind of icky and gross.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember like someone did that in elementary school, and I remember thinking like, "Oh, that's from the Breakfast Club." So like I had apparently already seen at least that part.
Yeah, it's
So,
weird. Yeah.
yeah.
Find some of the characteristics they have in these, well, characters, obviously. Um,
Mhm.
some try a little too hard, at least for me with Allison and Bender, like too hard to make them outsiders. And it kind of annoys me, maybe as an
Yeah.
adult.
I could see that, especially the little like some of the little quips Allison has before she really starts fully engaging with everyone and like speaking in full sentences. Like what
Yeah.
I can't remember when exactly it is, but that when she just laughs at Claire and then like doesn't say anything else. Claire's saying
Ye-
something and she just goes ha and is obviously trying to say like your life isn't so bad or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, I will say though, I know we're supposed to think that Claire is this like stuck up, like prissy girl, but I don't blame her for how uncomfortable she was with some of the times that Bender was talking to her,
Yes, 100%.
especially watching it now as an older person. Like, I think my opinions of everyone changes a bit at every age that I've watched this.
Hmm. I I feel like mine have changed slightly, but for the most part have kind of stayed the same. I
Okay.
guess it just depends on who you were. Guess when you were a
Yeah.
kid, like which of the five characters you relate to the most then and then now. But Bender always got under my skin.
Mm-hmm.
which I obviously he's supposed to, but as an adult, I go, well, the people behind the scenes who's making this, like I feel like they push his character too far to be too annoying. I mean, it works because he bothers me, but like I feel like he
Mm-hmm.
could be doing less and having that same impact to where like as I'm watching it, it's like, oh god, that's annoying.
Yeah. Oh, there's just that little bit when the principal comes back and asks them if anyone needs to use the lavatory. First of all, great seeing how they're all like sleeping, and then as soon as he says that, everyone's arm shoots up. The word lavatory feels very dated.
I mean, I haven't been in school in a while, but I definitely remember them using that word when I was in school.
I remember them using it when I was in elementary school.
Yes, maybe not high school. I
I
don't
don't
know.
think so. Do you remember having like the giant hall passes that you had to use to go to the
Yes.
bathroom? Yeah, my
Hmm.
son told me that they just like raise their hand and be like, "We have to go to I have to go to the bathroom," and they just like leave. First got to college, I did a year at the community college instead of taking high school classes my senior year. And I remember being amazed that you could just get up and go to the bathroom. You didn't have to like say anything. You didn't have to get like this huge piece of like plywood.
Right, with a key on it or something.
Right.
Oh, the
Yeah.
key didn't go to anything.
Hmm. And then it
Maybe
was
I'm
fun.
thinking of maybe I'm thinking of like gas station bathroom passes. Anyway, sorry.
I know what you're talking about though. I remember, like I said, having this experience when I went to the community college, and then once a week or something, you're supposed to go back to the high school to pick up like papers or things you might have missed that were, for things going on in your high school. And you're supposed to just come by the office and get your stuff. And anytime I'd be walking down the hall to go to the office, some teacher in the middle of class would yell out their open door asking me why I was in the hallway without a pass.
Yeah, they really like those hall passes.
I know. Like it wasn't my teacher. I wasn't in their class. They just saw a random student walking down the hall and they'd yell at me and I'd be like, I'm just here to pick up stuff. Like
Yeah, I gotta use the lavatory.
I gotta use the lavatory. They're like, too bad. Show me your huge piece of wood first. And
Yeah.
anyway, I laugh when the janitor comes in and he obviously knows Brian, and then Bender asks if it's his dad.
Yeah. Which is kind of funny though, because he walks in and Bender and the janitor definitely recognize each other. They know each other
Well,
too.
because Bender's like
Like,
there so much. Yeah.
right, but I think he jumps on that before anyone else can say anything to him.
Yes. Yes.
Because he's
Um,
always deflecting.
I had also just watched some Bob's Burgers with my son. It made me think of Tina being buddies with the janitor.
All right, so this movie reminds us of, let's see, he said, Eat My Shorts, that's Bart Simpson. His name is Bender, that's Futurama.
Yep.
Bob's Burgers, this is like the whole Sunday night lineup.
I know. I know. But okay, first of all, as a kid, even watching this, I always felt so bad when they're making fun of the janitor's job. Because, like, surely he did not want to be a janitor, right? But it's always so awkward to me when Bender is like, obviously giving him a hard time, but then pulling Andrew into it and saying Andrew's really interested in the custodial arts. And you know that Andrew feels bad about it too, but doesn't want to say anything and make it worse. But I love when the janitor kind of lectures them and then goes, by the way, that clock's 20 minutes fast.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's just like a
Uh,
great gotcha at the end.
I don't know how much of the janitor got cut, because I'm sure you're going to tell me here in a second, but
Yeah.
it'd be great if there was like a cut scene where he fucks with the clock. Like
Oh,
purposely
yeah.
like forwards, backwards, just that would be so great to like mess with them.
Well, speaking of messing with them, there's a cut of this movie that's like over 2 hours long. They had to cut a lot out. So, Carl the janitor originally, this is where he saw all the kids in 10 years, okay? He said Bender will have committed suicide. Brian will be successful but drop dead of a heart attack at age 35. Allison will be a good poet, but no one will care. Andy will be a district sales manager married to a gorgeous stewardess who becomes fat. And Claire will have 6 facelifts and 2 boob jobs before the age of 40.
Thoughts? These are all more than 10 years, first of all.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But man, the Bender one was pretty harsh.
Mm-hmm. I mean, all of them were kind of harsh. And also, it's so 80s how they're so focused on, like, you're gonna be fat or whatever. Because
Yeah,
Bender says that Claire's gonna get fat eventually, too. Like, she looks like a future fat person. And it's just like, okay, sir.
which is kind of funny though. Just like you look like you're gonna be fat in the future. Like it's weird.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Is it because I've been eyeing that sandwich for 20 minutes? Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's different times, right?
Oh, for sure.
I want to see this. I feel like now knowing that there's a picture of the janitor as man of the year, and then this more backstory, and then obviously
Mm-hmm.
where they're making fun of him, like this makes sense to me. He's being a little mean to some kids, but I mean,
I mean,
what
they were
are they
kind of
gonna
being
do?
mean to him. So,
Right, but he's the adult in the situation.
I mean, yes.
But that being said, this all makes sense. Like they're making fun of him, but he was a somebody in the school. He was maybe an Andrew or a Brian or a Claire,
Yeah.
depending on
Yeah.
why he was the man of the year, so to speak.
Yes.
And here he is now, and I mean, whatever custodial work is honest living. I'm not going to be Bender and making fun of someone's job, but I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a good way to bark back at these. It's kind of not fair because it's really just Bender, and
I know.
yeah, the other kids like they're like snickering, but I don't think they're snickering at Carl. I think they're just snickering that Bender's saying funny things
Yes, I agree with that.
or things that they
Absolutely.
think is funny because they're all the same age.
Yes.
So it's these kids. Most of them are trying to be good.
I agree with that. Yes. So this janitor character, Rick Moranis, was originally cast as the janitor. The problem is that he had created this entire character. It was like a Russian caricature. And I'll just read this quote from John Kapelos, who was recast as Carl the janitor. They did shoot for a week or so, maybe less, but Rick insisted on playing the part with a big set of gold teeth, a chain with a wad of keys hanging between his legs, which he would play with provocatively, and a thick Russian accent. He wanted to do it as sort of a broad SCTV type of character that he was prone to playing. John went with it for a few days, but then he asked Rick if he had read the script because this guy was supposed to have gone to this high school.
Yeah, that would have asked that the first day when he's doing an accent.
Yeah. And apparently it was a lot of emotional turmoil about the realization that they would have to fire Rick Moranis. Like John Hughes really
Mm,
didn't want to do it, but he wasn't changing his approach to the character. And I think I had read he was just coming off of Ghostbusters, and so he was a big name to have. It was also part of the studio feeling like if this movie was going to work, because they had zero confidence in it, they had to bring in some bigger names, and this was them trying to do that. I think that's why they were also pushing for John Cusack or Nicolas Cage at the beginning too. They didn't think any of the actors were big enough to help this movie do better.
hmm.
They were like,
Interesting.
we have to keep Rick Moranis as the janitor, and John Hughes was like, this is so not working.
Right.
This other scene I just thought was really funny, or I'm sorry, this other story that I included, I just thought was really funny. For anyone who doesn't know, Emilio Estevez's father is Martin Sheen. I almost said Charlie Sheen, that's his brother.
I almost
Mart
said Martin Short. We're both wrong.
to imagine. Um, so Martin Sheen, the father of both Emilio Estevez and Charlie Sheen. Martin Sheen was in Apocalypse Now. So John Kapelos, Carl the janitor, was doing the scene where he comes into the library and he's starting the bit where he says he knows where the kids are all going to be in 10 years, and which was later cut. This is Judd Nelson saying, Emilio Estevez and I were a little giggly. We started work every day at 8 a.m. So by 4:30, we'd get a little distracted. I assume this means they were shooting a little later in the day. John Kapelos says, it's my close up, and Emilio and Judd are fucking with me, making noises, making googly eyes. During one of the breaks, I said, you guys would have been great working with Martin Sheen on Apocalypse Now. Judd Nelson. And he starts talking about how Martin Sheen takes things so seriously. And when he did Apocalypse Now, he actually had a heart attack. I'm laughing. Emilio is not laughing. John Kapelos, Carl the janitor. Emilio's face just goes ashen. And Judd's looking up at me like, I can't believe you're saying this. And John Hughes comes up to me and whispers, Martin is Emilio's father. I turned to Emilio and then said, I'm so fucking sorry. I didn't know. Ali Sheedy, it was awful. Everybody lost it. John Hughes, I saw Kapelos a couple of years later and he said, at least once a year I wake up screaming in the middle of the night. Of all the actors in all of the movies I've seen, why did I pick that one?
Uh, what? It's such a weird story.
I I guess I could understand him not knowing they were related. Obviously, Emilio Estevez kept his, legal name. So I want to see the cut that involves Carl the janitor really ragging on these guys, but I would also love to see any footage of Rick Moranis with his like Russian janitor thing.
Yeah, that sounds bad, actually, but I would want to see it because of that.
I think I'm imagining his character in Ghostbusters like being the janitor but with a Russian accent.
That's
Yep.
exactly, yep. I can't help it. He's in other movies, but no, he's just Ghostbusters. That's his character.
I
That's his
know.
personality in my head.
I always think
Sorry,
of
Rick.
I know. I always think of him running down the street with the what's it called? What do they use?
The protein pack? I didn't think I'd have to bring that one back.
Yeah, I
Yes.
completely
Yeah.
forgotten about all of that. Um
Sorry.
so yeah, when he's running with that and like catching the bus and he's like, stay sharp, make good decisions.
And he's got the earmuffs on.
Yeah. So I'm just imagining like that man being the janitor that shows up at
Mm-hmm.
this school. Anyway,
But like with gold teeth and an accent.
sure. Why not? I guess we get another scene where they're still talking about virginity because I think it's Bender talking with Claire again, and then Brian kind of butts in and he says, I've laid lots of times. She lives in Canada.
Excuse me.
And like
Yeah, that was good.
obviously they don't believe him, but I think it's so funny when Bender's like, well, in addition to a number of girls in the Niagara Falls area.
Yeah. I do like I said, sometimes Bender, how they make him just always on annoys me. But
Yes.
his use of language is pretty impressive and I find pretty funny.
Yes. Did you catch the quick shot of Allison sitting back at her table in the library? She's looking at a Prince record.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Yes.
it's after her and Andrew
Yes.
are, I think, going to get everyone Cokes in the teacher's lounge. Remember, they're like walking through the hall together and they start talking a little. They cut out footage where I guess they start going through staff members' offices just because they can, because
Oh.
they're like
Yeah.
out and they're just looking through their stuff and they find the Prince record in someone's office and Allison says a line like, "Oh wow, like the adults are people too," or like they're real people too. And I believe that's one of the lines where something similar to that got put in Ferris Bueller since they had cut this scene. But that is why she has the random Prince record with her in the library.
Okay. Nice.
Hmm. I don't know if I actually ever really noticed it before because the way it is, it's so quick.
It's very quick. I
Hmm.
mean, I noticed it, but just because they just show her briefly, but yeah, it's very obvious she's reading the back of an album. I just
Hmm.
happened to catch it this time. It was Prince.
I guess I didn't think it was that weird either because, I mean, at least
No.
now there's music at the library.
Yeah. I never thought it was weird because I guess I didn't think we didn't see them going to people's offices. I just
Hmm.
didn't think it was weird she had an album. I don't know. I never thought about it too much, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and then also once you see how much stuff is in her purse later, you're just like, sure.
Right. What I did find weird is that later when they're getting high and Andrew's like power dancing upstairs or whatever, which is weird in itself.
Yes.
But the library has a fucking DJ's booth. Like Brian's
Yeah.
playing music and like so I guess I don't know if this scene happens before or after, but maybe I made the connection, like maybe that's where she found the Prince album. I don't know. I don't think I thought too much of her looking at an album,
Yeah.
but I did think a lot this time of why does the library have like this whole like
Setup. Yeah.
vinyl setup that and then how does the janitor and principal not hear them playing music?
I thought of that too. Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes you just got to go with it, I guess.
I mean, it's cut away to them like hanging out and talking in the basement, I think, and they're drinking a couple old style beers, so
That's true. Yeah.
maybe maybe that's what's going on.
Yeah, they're deep in conversation. But back to the scene where they're all pulling their lunches out. So funny to me that like no one's heard of sushi yet because I feel like sushi's everywhere. It's such a popular thing. There's sushi places everywhere. However, why did Claire bring sushi to school and then have it sit in a bag for hours? Because that's disgusting.
That's pretty gross, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, we know why. She's supposed to look. Sushi was not, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, a thing really in 1985. It was
Mm-hmm.
more, I feel like, probably seen as extravagant, so therefore privileged.
Yes.
So that's why she has it. I don't think they care about the fact that most people aren't going to know it's not supposed to be sitting in a brown bag under a desk for half a day.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
the point they're making here.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the same thing too. I'm like, what's that board? Oh my god, I know what that's for. Ew, why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone's gonna have to use the lavatory real soon after that.
Jeez. I never noticed before the looks they all give Andrew as he's like pulling all this food out of his bag, like whole bags of family size things. Yeah.
Two sandwiches at least.
Yeah. Allison, I always think of like her crunching her cereal into her sandwich. Like, if you ever made like a really big sandwich, you got to crunch it down. I always think of her with her
Absolutely.
cereal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although her sandwich looks disgusting, to be fair.
Her
So.
sandwich looks disgusting.
Hmm.
She took out the only meat, which is also disgusting.
Yeah.
It was like pimento loaf or
That's
something.
what I was
Ugh.
gonna say. Yeah.
Yeah, I will not mess with that. I think it's pixie sticks and cereal. I think that's about it. Maybe
I
some
think
jelly or
so.
something. I don't
Yeah.
know. It just hurts my stomach thinking about that.
Yes, for sure. Brian taking all of his stuff out in front of Bender, and first of all, the way Bender like slaps his hand away. Like, I don't know what it
Yeah,
is. It's just like it's so funny to me. And then he's like, Brian has what, a thermos of soup and like apple juice and
apple
whatever.
juice.
And Bender's like, "Did your mom marry Mr. Rogers?" And he says, "No, Mr. Johnson." Like very like as if this was a real question.
Yeah, Brian's smart, but he's slow.
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
I mentioned earlier that the music is few and far between the credit sequences, but it's just, I think during the lunch scene and they're kind of starting to turn on Bender like ease up, why are you so bad, blah blah blah, you're probably full of shit most of the time,
Mhm.
which I still kind of think maybe he's not full of shit, but he definitely plays up
Yes.
what his character, like not as in the actor, but Bender the character plays up him being a character of himself, like
Mhm.
he's using extreme examples or whatever.
Mhm.
But he starts talking about his family, and this is the first time in a long time we actually hear music, and I only noticed it because it's again mostly just dialogue.
Yeah.
It didn't take me out of the movie, but it made me realize it though, because I'm like, oh, what's that noise? What? Oh, it's music.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really pick up on this as much as you did, but you're right that like for me, I didn't notice it was gone until it would start up and you realize how
Yeah,
quiet it had been.
yeah. I think that's what it was. I don't think I noticed it before. Like, wasn't like sitting there like, oh, there's no music. There's no music. But
Mhm.
when it was there, I'm like, oh my god, there wasn't music.
Right.
Then they decide to go get drugs out of Bender's locker. Well, he decides,
Yeah.
and somehow people follow him. But I find it funny. He like opens his locker, and it's just a bag within a bag within a bag within a bag
Mhm.
within a bag.
Yep.
I might have lost count.
Yeah.
But it was a small little sight gag that I thought was nice.
Mhm. I do think it's really funny that it ends up getting like stashed in Brian's pants.
Yeah,
Just
he
poor Brian.
plays the hero here. Yeah, Bender.
Mhm.
That is. Again, he's got moments where he's just like this pain in the ass, and he shows some. I would call it more true Bender. But then
Mhm.
even that sometimes I feel like he plays up a little bit. Like,
Mhm.
okay, well I'm the bad kid. I don't want to get you guys caught. I definitely don't want to get caught with pot. So the
Mhm.
drug in the pants is pretty
Yeah.
funny. But then he's playing up a little bit of being the martyr. Like, okay, we won't get in trouble. I will.
Right.
And then he runs around screaming and playing basketball in the gymnasium.
Mhm.
Which, by the way, first of all, this school is really fucking big.
Yeah.
Like insanely huge as far as how it's mapped out in this sequence. But for some reason, I couldn't help noticing while he's shooting hoops, he has two different shoes on. Like,
I did
why did
notice that.
why did his shoes change? And then he leaves one of them behind, and then later he has his other shoes back on. I was a little
Yeah,
confused.
I was confused about it too because like you said he only changed one shoe it seems like when he's on the basketball court, so
Yeah,
not sure.
I don't even know if I'm supposed to be paying attention to that. He has these big boots on, and then he's shooting, and the foot facing us is like a white basketball shoe.
Mhm.
Very different than what he was wearing before.
Exactly, yeah. I noticed the white basketball shoe. Maybe our John Hughes cut has an answer somewhere.
Ooh, maybe.
Mhm.
Maybe he steals it from someone's locker.
Sure.
We'll add my own Bender backstory now.
After this, Vernon kind of drags Bender back to detention, but then like ends up putting him in a closet, I think. I do they get into like another verbal altercation, then he like drags Bender out?
Yeah, I feel like it's like a mini storage room for the library, but it kind of does look
Sure,
like a
yeah.
closet. Yeah,
This closet scene is so intense because he ends up really getting in Bender's face and being like, "Go ahead, hit me, hit me." And you can see Bender's facial expression just he's shocked, he doesn't know what to do. He's like again, it's how does someone in a position like this principal, vice principal, whatever he is, not like why do you think this is okay to behave this way? Like, come on, hit me. Like, okay, so what if he did? Like, he's gonna get in trouble for it, obviously, but you're now just another antagonizing figure in his life instead of like doing anything helpful or constructive. And also, like, throwing him in a storage closet in the first place seems weird.
yeah. Well, we'll say things were different.
Things were
1985.
different in the 80s.
Yes,
um,
so we'll say that. That being said, again, if I could pretend to know the psychology of characters I didn't write,
sure.
I feel like maybe Vernon is trying to break through to him in different ways, and he thinks that being, I guess in today's term, an alpha male towards Bender would make the most sense because that's what Bender's trying to do. Bender is acting like he's running the show in the library. He's the loudmouth to the teacher. He's showing off, essentially.
Mhm.
So I think what Vernon's doing, and I'm not saying I would believe in these tactics or do this myself, but as far as
Mhm.
the movie is concerned, what I think he's doing is calling his bluff. He's like, "You're not so tough, Mr. Rebel.
Mm.
You're not who you say you are. You do have a facade, and I see through it. You're a scared boy like the rest of the scared kids in the other room.
Mhm.
I wouldn't really tell him to punch me in the face, especially
Yeah.
if I was the principal of the school, but I think that's what's happening. And it works because you do see vulnerability in Bender. It does make Vernon look a little more mean, but then at the same time, as I reflect, I'm going, well, yes, it doesn't work exactly in today's school system.
Yeah.
But as far as character development goes, I can see what's going on here.
Okay. The one other thing I took away from this scene is that he tells Bender he makes 31,000 a year. Like in because he's trying to say he's so much better than him because he has like a job
Yes.
and he's well respected. Is 31,000 a year a lot of money? Cuz like
In 1985?
mhm. I
I don't
assume
know.
so. Because he's trying to say his like life is on a good track and he's so much better than Bender. So I assume that's like a decent salary.
Let's hold on. Average salary 1985. US, not UK. Oh God.
Hmm.
In 1985, the average individual income in the U.S. was around $16,390,
Wow.
while the median household income was 23,620. So
Okay.
yes, that's double.
And also, he worked in a public school and he made that much money.
In the very nice Chicago suburb that John Hughes created. Come on now.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, he's doing really well. Okay. Okay.
That's wow. Man, it blows my mind. 40
I
years ago.
I literally remember getting a job like a year or two after college that paid like 30,000 a year and being like, how do I live off of this?
Time travel to 1985.
Right? I was born in the wrong time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, glad we solved that mystery.
Gonna
So,
have a lot of realizations in this season, I think.
yeah, we're going to learn
For
so
better or
much.
for worse.
Yeah, we're going to learn so much, but not about movies. Uh,
Oof. Ugh.
so Bender ends up crawling through the ducts in the ceiling to get out of whatever closet he's in. He's reciting a joke as he's doing this, but before he can get to the punchline, he falls through the duct back into the library. Judd Nelson said, I've been asked about a zillion times what the punchline to that joke is. John Hughes, there isn't one. That was the point. Judd Nelson, I made the joke up. My line when I fall into the room is, I forgot my pencil. So we're trying to work backward from that. But what joke would have a punchline like that?
Interesting. That's
Yep.
kind of funny though. Like there
Hmm.
is no joke. It's just it was done on purpose. I like that.
Yeah. It was just apparently ad libbed from him saying he forgot his pencil. This leads to the shot where Bender ends up hiding under the table where Claire is sitting, and you see a shot of him looking up her skirt. You see a shot of her underwear. That is not Molly Ringwald because she was 16 at the time. I,
I assume, but thanks for clarifying.
yes, she literally, I don't think they could even like, they couldn't have even brought it up to her legally. Like it was just automatically a body double. Molly Ringwald, she wrote about watching John Hughes movies with her daughter, and her daughter was like shocked that her mom had shown her underwear. And she was like, no, no, not me. But that didn't really compute. I think her daughter was a little too young to understand that body doubles are a thing. But I do not remember seeing this shot. And I really think it was like, that's how much I saw this on TV. They probably cut it out.
Yes, I
So,
would imagine so. Yeah.
yeah.
I forgot this shot too, but like I think
Hmm.
of like I said, Bender. Some of his antics kind of push even my buttons.
Yes. And this
This
was one
one
of them.
was the one that was like, okay, like if
Yes.
Andrew was gonna beat him up, this would be the time.
Yes. Yeah. This is when I was like, okay, not to sound some type of way, but like, this guy is sexually harassing her at this point. Like, it's,
Oh, 100%.
uh, yeah, definitely one of those things that I'm sure they thought it was funny when they were like writing it, but did not age so great.
No, I don't think this part did.
Yeah. We'll get into that a little bit later too.
After that shot, because he's
Hmm.
hiding under the table because he's supposed to be in the closet or whatever, he gets the drugs back from Brian's underpants, and it's got nice and safe and fresh.
Yeah. I think it's so funny
Uh,
that you hear him undoing his pants to get them out.
yeah, he goes to get high, and then like Brian and Claire follow him, and
Hmm.
Andrew's like kind of like pantomiming like not to go, not to go.
Hmm.
They leave, and he kind of gives in and goes as well. And then you just see Allison sitting by herself, and like she eventually joins them, but it made me kind of sad because he cared so much about Brian and Claire not going to get high, and he didn't even consider like if Allison wanted to go,
Yeah.
if he left, like did he no one he didn't invite her as well as being the last one in this little club of breakfast that they have, and I don't know, I just kind of felt bad. Like
Hmm.
this scene really to me, like all the weird stuff she does. Okay, get it. She's a outcast, a weirdo. Again, some of the things are too much. We don't need to do it. I wasn't offended by anything. It works for her character, but like sometimes I don't need to see all of that. Less is more. This scene right here, that made me feel like she was an outsider because no one even gave a shit whether she came
Yeah.
left, sober, high.
Yes. That's a really good point, yeah. But this scene where they all get high, completely ad-libbed.
Nice.
John Hughes just let them all do their own thing. He said that Ali Sheedy was really into this folk singer named Phil Ochs. Ochs. I'm not sure how to say that name. So when they're getting high, Ali Sheedy in character, he said she went off to one of the listening rooms and sings this incredibly sad Phil Ochs song called My Life to herself. It was entirely her invention. It was about the saddest thing I had ever seen. Allie's double jointed and can literally embrace herself. Allison was this child who had been deprived of any affection and had learned how to hold herself, to be both mother and child. Everybody was crying. And Ali Sheeny said, "It's the beginning of Allison's change, the moment where she decides to become part of the group. John trusted me. He knew that was part of Allison, and I knew that it made sense." But of course, this was cut from the final version. I don't know. I would like to see some of this. I feel like her character is still a mystery to me a bit because you really don't know what's true or not, especially because she talks so little. And then
Right.
even when, toward the end where it does seem like she's opening up, she's immediately like, "Oh, that's fake. Oh, I lied." And
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
just she's the one that I still really don't feel like I don't know if I learned anything about her because like I don't know what's real. And I would have liked to see a
Yeah.
little more of something like this.
Yeah. I definitely want to see this Hughes cut.
Yeah.
I think this is during the scene they're showing where Vernon is because, like, while they're doing a bunch of crazy stuff, like they got to show where the principal is because he's not just across the hall anymore.
Hmm.
He's in the basement and he's going through people's like files, which I guess part of me at first was like, yeah, he's the principal, but then he's like reading, I guess, like really private stuff, and Carl catches him. And he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just going through this." He goes, "That's really private matter." He's like, "Well, what are you doing down here?" Basically goes back and forth for a minute, but then Carl just blackmails him. He's like, "I'll take $50."
Yeah, this was weird. And also going back to what you were saying too. Does this man want to spend his Saturdays here? Because he's obviously trying to find ways to entertain himself, going through
Right.
like private files. Did you ever get told that things were going to go on your permanent record when you were younger?
Oof. I I want to say yes, but I actually don't know for sure because I feel like that's such a thing that you see in movies that I feel like I think someone told me that, but I also feel like that's just a joke.
Well, yeah, that's all I
Because
could,
there's
because there isn't one, right? Or if there is, it
yeah.
doesn't matter at this point because we're 40.
Well, when you're in school, it goes on your temporary permanent record because of an 18 is you start a new permanent record.
I guess. Yeah, all I could think of was, when he's going through these, I was like, oh, are these the mythical permanent records we always heard about?
Yes.
Yeah, because the one time I got lunch bunch, they were like, it's gonna go on your permanent record. I'm like, what even is that? Like, do I
Yeah.
get that when I graduate? Like, what is it?
Here's your diploma and a file of your permanent records. You
It's the
lunch bunch
cloud.
3 times.
Sir, it was one time.
Oh,
I laughed so hard when I think they're all still high, and Brian and Andrew are kind of hanging out, and Allison comes over and is reciting all this information about Andrew, like down to his social security number. Also, I thought it was a joke at first when she said that his middle name was Ralph, because it was like, that's not real, but apparently it is. And they're like, how do you know all this? And Andrew completely seriously goes, wow, are you psychic? And it was just like such himbo energy. Like he's already kind of the dumb jock. And then, wow, are you psychic?
yeah.
Yeah, sure. Like I said, to be fair, maybe he's still high.
I think it was. I
Yeah.
think that was Brian. She was rattling off information from because it was Brian's wallet.
Yeah, I meant Brian. I'm sorry. But
Oh, you're
Andrew's
good.
the one that says, that asks if she's
Yeah.
psychic.
I only wanted to bring up that it was Brian because the next note is the fake ID, which of course
Yeah.
Brian would have one,
So he could vote.
so he could vote.
It's
Yes,
great.
I kind of wish I had one in 2000 to vote.
Yeah. That that was Bush Gore,
I believe so.
right?
Yes,
And the hanging
I believe.
chads and everything. What year are we talking about? Um,
1985.
there we go. So we cut back to Carl and the principal talking, and they're kind of having a more like philosophical conversation about, kids these days and whatever. And Vernon's saying the kids turned on me, and then Janitor's like, no, you're just like an asshole. and
Right.
and he says, do you think I give one rat's ass what these kids think of me? And it's like, obviously you do, because that Barry Manilow comment cut you deep when it should not
Right.
have.
Well, also just the whole conversation you started with Carl, like, oh, the
Hmm.
kids turned on me, so clearly you care.
Yes.
And then Carl's viewpoint, again, like knowing more backstory that we didn't get makes sense. He was like, well, when you were their age, would you listen to you now?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know, like putting in perspective, like kids are gonna be kids. Like we're of that age, where these other figures that aren't our parents are just
Hmm.
annoyingly in the way. And to these kids, their parents are specifically also kind of like not the best examples of how to be an adult.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something I guess we haven't touched on yet, is that what they all end up having in common is that their parents are awful just in different ways.
Yes.
Or at least their parents are extremely hard on them or make their lives harder in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what's post high realization, I believe.
Yeah.
Like they're like just being open and honest.
Hmm. Yeah, so it's
Well, sorry, I think I got ahead of myself here. Maybe not super honest because as you mentioned, Allison tells this whole story about being a nympho
hmm.
and sleeping with her shrink, and someone's like, "Are you crazy?" And Brian says, "Obviously, she's crazy. She's screwing a shrink," and that's just such a good line in
Hmm.
in the context of her story. Yeah, then
Yeah,
she's like,
yeah.
"Oh no, I made all that up." So it's like, God damn it.
I think it's so funny when they use this to ask Claire again whether she's a virgin. And her response at first is, I don't even have a psychiatrist, as if like,
Yeah. Like that's how you do not become one or something.
yeah, I know, as if that's like the only reason she wouldn't still be a virgin, which is like awful, let's be clear. But we can laugh about it because it's fake. But I do feel really bad for Claire in this scene, like trying to get her to admit that she's a virgin. And then it's like kind of nice how Allison's like, oh, it's okay, I am one too, but also like later, like they already pressure Claire into admitting she's a virgin. So like Allison isn't exactly being a girl's girl here. But I do like the way that Allison clocks the double standard, like all the way back in the 80s, that, if you say you are a virgin, you're a prude, but if you say you're not a virgin, you're a slut. And
Yeah.
this seems to be something that's reserved only for the girls.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I guess if you're a guy, I don't know the terminology here. Like Brian, I guess maybe he would be a nerd because he's a virgin.
Hmm.
I don't know. He wouldn't be a prude, I think. And then
Right.
it's never really revealed, or I don't even think they ask Andrew. And then I don't know if Bender says one way or the other.
Yeah, I think it's assumed like it's just embarrassing if the guys are still virgins, but we don't get as into it.
Right. Another 80s trope.
Yes.
Yeah. We've sort of mentioned that a little bit with Hocus Pocus, which is definitely not in the 80s, but not too far removed,
Yes.
where he lights the candle and like everyone has to emphasize that he's a virgin, including his like 8-year-old sister. I
Um,
feel like that's one thing that has stuck with me both watching it then and now is like, who cares? I don't know. I never got like by the time I watched this movie from the 80s, it was at least, I don't know, 20 years removed from when it came out. So I'm thinking, I don't care. This doesn't matter. And I never understood that. I guess that was just a thing to do in the 80s. Like the double standard, which I knew existed, but then just like also with the guys, like nobody, I don't
Hmm.
fucking care. Like it doesn't matter. It's your business. I think Brian's the one that says that. Or no, maybe Claire says it. Like, what difference does it make? Like, I don't want to talk about my private matters.
I know, I remember her saying it's private. I don't know. I also feel it's something that seems to matter a lot when you're like 16, 17, 18, and then like,
Hmm.
but not really. Like in
But
the
not
grand
really.
scheme
Yeah.
of things, no. But like to them in this setting, I understand why it matters. So this whole last bit, this like confessional scene, we'll call it, according to John Hughes, it took 3 days to shoot. It was 35 pages long, which, if you're familiar with screenwriting, usually one page in a script equals a minute of footage. So it's like 35 minutes, 35-minute long scene, the way it was written. John Hughes said, I was behind and the studio was bugging me. You've got to cut pages. So when we hit that scene, we shot more than 10 pages a day. He also apparently, because he wanted to make sure he had enough coverage, meaning other people's reactions that he could cut away to, he would do everyone's dialogue while filming other characters so that he could have what he felt were good enough cutaways. So he had just an amazing amount of footage.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yes.
There's five characters.
Exactly. So they said
Oof.
specifically he would do things like have Molly Ringwald say her dialogue while only filming Bender and stuff like that. And like obviously he still had to film her saying her dialogue because we see that, but I don't know if John Hughes fully understood coverage. It was only a second movie, guys. I don't know. This is the part that got left in the movie that Allison says when you grow up your heart dies. There was a lot of dialogue that sort of led up to that got cut. I mean, even like the thing about her finding the record in the office saying like, "Oh wow, they're still real people" or something. And I also feel like I can see how they would think that just given their principal and how this whole day has gone.
That was a good line, though. It's like, ooh,
Hmm.
ouch.
Yeah. And then I think it's Bender who says, "Who cares?" And she's like, "I care."
Yeah.
This honestly breaks my heart when Brian says that he considers them all friends when he's asking if they're going to talk on Monday or like pretend they even know each other. And Claire's talking about how they will never acknowledge each other in public. And at one point, you see Brian like wipe a tear from his eye because he's the only one, well, probably except Allie, or Allison, who's like, I wouldn't care. But according to Allison, it's because she has no friends anyway.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Which is that even true? Nobody knows.
Yeah, exactly. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah.
Something I forgot to mention, apparently they had to make all of Allison's costumes because they could not find black clothing because it was the 80s and everything was just like bright and neon. And they had
Yeah.
so much trouble trying to figure out how to dress her. Everyone else, they, just went shopping where like teenagers would shop, basically. But I think the costume, whoever was in charge of costumes was like, I finally just made her clothes, including the purse, like her big, like sack purse.
You know, that's funny because I never thought about that till you said it.
Hmm.
But with the big sack purse and her clothing, she looked like someone that might have gone to high school when we went to high school.
That's what I always think too when you see her. Maybe it's when she's getting up to get the drinks with Andrew, when you see her putting the big purse over her shoulder, and I'm like, that's how people had those bags when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So
To be fair, none of their costumes are so like 80s that I feel like anyone could be wearing that at any time. All five of them, for the most
for
part.
the most
Maybe not
part, I
Bender's
agree.
gloves. I don't
Hmm.
know. But they're
Right.
like just kind of wearing regular clothes, pants, hoodies.
I remember being a little surprised at Claire's outfit because that's not what I think of as the 80s. But they said they had a certain direction they were going with her, that they didn't want her to be like a typical 80s girl. They wanted her to be a little more refined, like not like a
Okay.
girl who's like begging her dad to go buy her all these things. Like she just does it, like in a kind of a more sophisticated, a little more grown up way versus like an
Sure.
immature, bratty way. They actually took her to Ralph Lauren in Chicago, I believe, and that's where they bought her outfit.
Interesting.
Her boots alone were like $700, I think.
It's like half the budget.
I know. Yeah.
It's kind of cool though because you could easily do something like, I don't know, make her look like Madonna or something,
Mm-hmm.
and that would clearly cement this in the 80s, where I think the costuming kind of, you could just jump in at any time and this feels like it could be a
Mm-hmm.
modern movie
Mm-hmm.
for the most part. Bender's outfit, maybe, like, he doesn't scream 80s, but the leather jacket over the denim jacket over the flannel, I
Yeah.
thought was a bit much for me. And then, of course, the gloves, the fingerless biker gloves he's wearing, scream
Yeah.
80s. But
Yes.
he might be the one that like sticks out the most, but it's still not so outlandishly 80s where I'd watch that and go, "Oh my god, this is so dated." Like when I watched it for the first time in the late 90s or the 2000s, he looked like someone just hanging on to grunge a little bit too long. So like that
Right,
also fits
exactly.
like my time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I kind of really like that because you can probably watch it another 40 years and maybe it would still fit
There you go,
if we're
yeah.
not all wearing like silver robotic outfits or whatever in 40 years, Futurama style.
I just I just saw something that was like, we are now in the time where Children of Men take place. Like the movie Children of Men takes place in 2027, I think.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And I think it was
Hmm.
maybe Metropolis was set in 2026, and they thought we'd all have flying cars and stuff by now.
Yep.
Jokes on them.
Joke sounds like jokes on us.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, really.
Where's my on my hoverboard? Oh, that's
Uh
another episode.
I love this scene where they're all dancing. I think partially because of what you had said, that at any time there's just like a commercial or like a montage of teen movies or 80s movies, whatever, you see them dancing. Like that's
Oh
what's
yeah.
used a lot. And I personally like, though, when they're like the various groupings of them are on the table or the counter, whatever it is, and they're just like moving across the screen, like very 80s, I
Yes.
feel, kind of dance moves. Apparently, this was only supposed to be Claire dancing, and she felt awkward, so she begged John Hughes to have it be something where everyone dances. And because he really liked Molly Ringwald, he said yes.
Oh, I don't know if it would make sense if it was just Claire.
I don't either.
What happens before this? She gets upset, right? They just have
I
the
think
like,
they're just having that really sad talk,
yeah,
and then
and then they
it,
put music on because at first it's her on the stairs.
yes, like on the landing of the stairs. Hmm.
Yeah, then they show the other ones dancing all together. So
Hmm.
it's, I feel like it could have just been her like interpretive dancing, I guess, like getting her feelings out, so to speak.
Maybe.
But that would be weird. So then, like when the other ones join in, it feels like they're all just kind of like bonding further, in my opinion.
Hmm. I agree with that. That's part of why I
Yeah,
like it.
yeah. Well, and it's just fun. Like we just had
Hmm.
a very serious scene with lots of
Hmm.
crying, and we need a little breather from that.
Yeah.
I would be curious in the Hughes cut if it was just Claire, because the brief moments we see just her dancing at first, like Molly has some pretty legit like 80s moves.
Hmm.
Like she can be in a music video, I think.
Yeah. I agree with that. Allison dancing herself down to the floor like a
Yeah.
slug. Like, that's
Just like
just
stopping.
somehow, that is also exactly how she would dance, you know? Like,
Mm-hmm. It's like she was doing yoga.
yeah. Yeah.
Also, like the
Oh,
second time in the movie we see her like face down on something.
right, exactly. Maybe that's why I think of it as like that makes sense for a character, because she's always like
Yeah.
hiding. The makeover scene with Claire and Allison. This was the scene where I was like, there's only 10 minutes left of the movie. Where did the makeover scene go? So, like I said, I I knew all the bits and parts. I apparently did not fully remember what order they all went in. And again, I think because I mostly would watch this on TV. Ali Sheedy said that originally Allison wasn't going to be wearing any makeup, and at the end, Claire would put makeup on her. She said, I didn't want it to be a makeover scene as if somebody painted a face on Allison and suddenly she became acceptable. But I thought if she wore heavy black eyeliner, then it would be like wiping off the mask to reveal the person underneath. I could have done without the bow in the hair, but it was a compromise,
Yeah, the bow in the hair is weird.
but also very 80s.
Yeah, I think made over Allison looks more 80s than Claire or outsider Allison.
I could see that. I don't know. I'm so conflicted about this because, I mean, it is nice to see her face, just in terms of like her hair being away from her face, right?
Yeah.
But I almost feel like that has more to do with her being a little more comfortable around everyone at this point too, because she's actually like looking up at people. Yeah, I just don't, I don't know. I never love the idea of, oh, you look a little better now. So now this boy's going to pay attention to you. Like, I don't know. And I actually feel like her and Andrew could be really sweet together. And it makes me
Yeah.
sad that they might just never talk again.
I felt like I have to like rewatch it like again after our conversation to see if there were any more breadcrumbs into Andrew and Allison prior makeover scenes. I feel like there were, but like after the getting high, because
Hmm.
I, if you're gonna be pairing people up, the very early '80s thing to do would be obviously Andrew Claire,
Yes.
Bender and Allison,
Hmm.
and everything works. You got your popular
Yeah.
kids, your non-popular kids. Brian is
Brian is
just in the
still
middle.
alone.
Yeah, well,
Poor Brian.
sorry, Brian.
Brian and his essay.
Well, yeah, they were the other two couples were getting to know each other, and Brian's writing a paper.
Yeah.
In what works in this movie is that it goes against it, where Bender's harassing Claire the whole time, and she sees past his facade. I'm assuming that's why she likes him, or maybe
Hmm.
she likes the bad boy. Who knows? And then, like most part, maybe half the movie, I feel like if I didn't already know what was going to happen, I could see Brian and Allison. Like I feel like Brian to me sees more good in people. Like he's kind
Hmm.
of
I could see that.
the I don't want to say guiding light, but I don't think he's judging Bender or Andrew for being Bender or Andrew.
Hmm.
Like I don't think he cares about the jock or the rebel.
I agree
Um,
with that. I actually ended up feeling like Brian and Allison were similar in that way. Maybe
yeah,
just because of that confession scene where they're both the ones who would be like, "Well, I would still talk to you. I don't care."
yeah. I think that's where you start pivoting for Andrew and Allison now because he takes his time to comfort her and actually ask her real questions. And
Hmm.
is this true? Actually, do you mean this?
Yeah,
And I think that's where the
that's true.
breadcrumbs
Hmm.
start. And she's still hiding very much physically
Hmm.
and emotionally. And then the makeover, like the hair being up, you could see her face better. I feel like it works for me a little bit better than like a she's all that moment where like take off the girl's glasses. Oh my god. Like it's and I like the fact that they didn't make her over, so to speak. They just kind of
Exactly.
like she said, she took off the black eyeliner, got her hair out
Hmm.
of her face.
Hmm.
Not saying someone can't be cool and attractive with that style also, but it's again more revealing to the character, not just physically, that she has changed.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not sure how I feel about Claire kissing Bender at the end. However, like, because I think you do make a good argument about like maybe she sees the layers there or whatever is, underneath the facade. I really enjoyed his lines about like, I would be excellent at being used to get back at your parents.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought that was all really funny. And also, I noticed this time when they're leaving the school, Bender's so happy. Like he has the biggest smile on his face as they're leaving, and then he says, "See you next Saturday" to the janitor, and he's just his whole mood is different.
Yeah, he's got accepted by four other strangers. It seems like, I don't know. Maybe they will talk on Monday. It's that's. I feel like that could be a whole another 3 hour discussion
Yeah, I don't know.
because I mean the pairs we mentioned they very awkwardly kiss in front of their parents, which is weird to me. Like
Thank
I don't.
you. Yes.
I don't want to be like, hey, I don't know what would be more uncomfortable for me as a teen to be kissed by a girl or kiss a girl, either way, whoever's the kisser kissy doesn't matter, in front of my own parents or in front of her parents. I don't know which one's more awkward. I think probably in front of her parents for me as the guy in the situation, because
Mm,
I feel like, especially if the dad's in the car, the protective father figure stereotype thing happening.
mm.
I could take my parents like making fun of me on the way home. That's fine. I just don't want to like get threatened by someone's parents or something. But it's like right in front of their car. It's like, man, you've done it like on the way out, like on the steps of the school or something?
Yeah, that definitely stuck out to me when, in particular, when Andrew kisses Allison goodbye, and then like his dad pulls up immediately and even makes a point to look out the window at Allison, and I was like, huh, okay. And then for him specifically, I was like, are we maybe making a point that he cares a little less about what his parents think of him now? But then Claire kisses Bender like literally, like they're basically leaning on the car that her parent is in, you know? I don't know. Yeah, I that stuck out to me. I
Let's
want
reverse it for a second.
hmm,
Now we are the parents, at
yeah.
least one of us are parents. But like, how I was saying, it might be awkward for us as kids making out with that boy or girl in front of their parents or our parents. But as a parent in the car waiting to pick up your kid from Saturday school, that's kind of weird too,
Yeah,
right? Like,
just like get in the
what do
damn
you do in
car.
that situation? Am I gonna
Mhm.
honk the horn? Am I gonna roll down the window? Like, this is weird. What do I do here? I'm somehow a voyeur, and I don't even mean to be.
I'm a voyeur. I don't know. I mean, I guess they are teenagers before cell phones existed. How else are they gonna meet up? I don't know. I mean, I think it's weird. I personally, as a parent, I think I have realistic expectations somewhat about what my teenage child would be like, but it doesn't mean I need to see it.
Sure, yes, fine.
It's
But maybe that you kind of touched on this. Maybe that is the point. Maybe they stopped caring what their parents think because that was kind of the whole thing they had in common, right? All
mhm.
the different pressures for different reasons,
Mhm.
or maybe like lack of pressure for two of them.
Yeah. Yeah, because I thought about that, like I said, with Andrew specifically, that he always had to be a certain way to please his parents. So who knows? I did think it was really funny that Allie like steals one of his patches off his jacket. And it's just like
And
accepted that she's going to take this now.
yeah,
Yeah.
and Claire gives away an earring.
Yeah. And did you notice that we don't see it on camera, but Andrew gives Allie his hoodie at some point?
Yeah, I think they switch coats or something
Well,
because
because
he
she,
has a
oh,
bigger baggy coat on at the end.
does he?
I
I don't
think so.
remember what he was wearing. I just realized like when they were walking down the hall, she's in that sleeveless like white blouse, but then when they're outside, she kind of have his has his hoodie around her shoulders.
Hmm.
So,
I think that's my argument, at least, that at least the two out of the four out of the five are going to talk to each other on Monday because they've exchanged personal belongings.
maybe
So,
not.
like,
It's so
I
they
don't
don't
know.
forget about each other. That's how I took
Oh,
it.
like the song.
Like the
I get it.
song. Mhm.
Well, what's Brian got?
The
He's
essay.
gonna forget now. Oh no, he doesn't. He's the only nice one that said he would remember everybody.
Yeah, I know. Jeez.
So
Um,
not only is Brian the narrator because he writes the paper, but he actually is the songwriter to the hit song because he
shut
doesn't
up.
want you to forget about him.
Okay. Speaking of Brian, I already mentioned that John Hughes plays his dad. John Hughes said something like, this little scene proved he was like a horrible actor and he bombed. And all he does is drive up to pick him up. He doesn't even have a line.
I can't even remember that. So yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I think John Hughes is just extremely hard on himself.
also you're not an actor, John Hughes. So
Yeah.
if you're horrible at your Hitchcock moment, so be it.
Yep. Do you have anything else you would like to add about this last bit?
My theory of Brian the songwriter is enough to end on, I think.
Okay. Okay. So John Hughes said toward the end of filming, Universal was threatening to shut me down. 16 Candles had been released and it wasn't a hit, and the honeymoon was over real quick. Wrap that goddamn movie up and bring it back here. That's a quote from the studio. I was really bothered that I had to move my children to California and put them in new schools, uproot my wife. I had this terrible feeling that if we went out there, I didn't know how we would get back. Everything changes. So basically, they would not let him, even after filming Rap, they wouldn't let him cut the movie in Chicago. They made him move out to LA to do it, which
Ugh.
meant he moved his whole family out there. But this was already kind of all going on, like I said, before filming was officially done on The Breakfast Club. Judd Nelson said, "We finished a day or two early. It was weird. There was nothing left to shoot, but it felt like we weren't done, but we were." John Hughes, "We shot the last scene on the last day." This was a co-producer. They said there was something about being outdoors, out of the comfort of that room. There was a finality to it. If you notice too, they started filming it in March. There's snow on the ground in the beginning, and there is not anymore because it's May when they filmed the ending scene. Ali Sheedy said, John gave us each a piece of the banister from the library. I still have this little piece of wood. John Hughes, when that movie came to an end, I was heartbroken. We did Judd walking off into the distance, and he just kept walking. I got into my car and drove away.
Like, okay, I don't mean to laugh because it's sweet, but it's funny. It's like, well, Judd's walking. Well, I guess I'm leaving too.
And Judd just walked all the way home.
Yeah. Well, that's weird though, because like he walks towards the camera. So what does he just keep walking past the camera and the crew and just keeps going?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Sure. So, like we said, Universal thought this was going to be a flop. John Hughes said, I started shooting Weird Science at Universal, and then I would run across the lot when they were mixing Breakfast Club. It was terrible, going between something I really loved and this dopey ass comedy. Afterward, Dee Dee, who is the editor, said to me, You have to realize how dangerous this movie was. You could have screwed it up in so many ways, and you didn't even know it. And she had given a separate quote where she was saying that it could have been such a boring movie because it was just one location. It is very dialogue heavy. There's not necessarily a ton of action. John Hughes said, We ran it for the executives at Universal. The lights came up, the studio head and two marketing people got up, walked out, and didn't say a word. He said to another guy that worked with the studio, Is that good or bad? And this guy said, It's not good. So, tale we have heard before. Universal didn't know how to market it, thought they had a flop on their hands. They also said that there was no story, which maybe I can see in a sense. I don't think I realized when I was younger how weird it was to have this dialogue heavy movie in one location. I think this type of thing hadn't been done. I think we'll get into this a little bit, but the this was a different type of teen movie. This was actually kind of groundbreaking at the time. And
So I was gonna say,
the way people were talking about it, I feel like this is how people reacted to when Rebel Without a Cause came out.
hmm,
There's that big deal about when James Dean yells, You're tearing me apart. And I could see that in Judd Nelson's character in Bender, where people are like, oh my gosh, teenagers have real problems and real emotions. And it's like a
yeah,
darker kind of teen story. So John Hughes said, the first trailer was all Chuck Berry music, kids running through the school, Judd falling through the ceiling. They went for as much comedy as they could, but they had forgotten one key element of teendom. At that age, it feels as good to feel bad as it does to feel good.
yeah,
Yep. So Joke ended up being on Universal. We had a $1 million budget. It grossed 51.5 million worldwide.
wow,
Yeah,
I mean, that's that's still not huge for Universal, I think, and compared to other hits.
sure.
But
Yeah,
what you put in and what you got out, I think is huge.
absolutely.
And
Yes.
like you said, jokes on you. Like if maybe they would have put more into it, could they have gotten more in return? If they would have
Mm-hmm.
listened about marketing, maybe they could have got more in the return.
Yes. Debuted at number three on its opening weekend behind Beverly Hills Cop and Witness.
They're all great Valentine's Day movies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Witness was in the discussion for this season. I'd kind of forgotten it existed. So there was a lot of critical acclaim. Apparently, Roger Ebert came to visit the set at one point and was really impressed. I don't know if that's something that typically happens, but Gene Siskel, who is, his critic partner, John Hughes said, opening weekend, Gene Siskel called me at home raving about the movie. He said he would have given it 4 stars if Michael had gotten Molly in the end. So, Brian getting Claire at the end.
I could also see that working. We do see that in some other '80s movies where the nerd, the brainiac,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes gets the popular girl,
Yeah.
or vice versa. The gender doesn't matter, but the popular person and the person who's super smart and
Mm-hmm.
they kind of I can see that working as well.
Yeah.
It's just as long as Claire and Andrew like we want that, so we don't want that. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
This movie it just wouldn't work for me. It has to be one of the other two kids.
Yeah. So Gene Siskel said he wanted Brian to get Claire at the end because he was a total geek in high school and he never got the girl. I said, but the movie would have been totally false. And he said, I know, but just once I would like it. I must have seen it 25 times in this little theater in Westwood near UCLA in Los Angeles. Every night there was a line. It was wonderful.
Nice.
Yep. And also, Anthony Michael Hall and Molly Ringwald started dating after this movie in real life. So,
So Gene Siskel got what he wanted.
yeah, there you go. So, Ali Sheedy was, I think, the person who first made public comments about there being a director's cut. There was a cast reunion for the 25th anniversary. I believe they said it was 150 minutes. So, like over 2 hours long. An original script was found in 2015 in the school where they filmed, I guess. So it hadn't been used as a school for a while, but it had been turned into an office or something, and or offices for school staff. And when they were moving the offices, they found a script in a cabinet and they realized it was like one of the earlier drafts somehow.
Could you imagine just coming across that in
Mhm.
like an old filing cabinet?
Yep.
Like what?
I know.
Sell that on eBay.
I know. So the story about the song Don't You Forget About Me, I included a couple quotes because I just feel like this is not the way things exist anymore, and also because our good friend Steven Spielberg makes an appearance. So this is the music supervisor, Kathy Nelson, speaking. That's an era of the music business that I don't think we'll ever see again. I think that era, the late 80s and the first half of the 90s, it was really the first time that music was embraced in that way by studios, by filmmakers. Michelle Manning, who was a co producer on the movie. I remember one Grammy Awards where Steven Spielberg was backstage and everybody who won a Grammy, it was like Huey Lewis, Cyndi Lauper, he just grabbed them and signed them up to do songs for movies. I mean, that was back when a soundtrack and an MTV video was a big part of the marketing campaign for a movie, and certainly for a teen movie.
Steven Spielberg just working magic,
I
grabbing
know.
people up left and right.
Yep. Was it Cyndi Lauper did a song for the Goonies, right?
I feel like that's right, but I also feel like we'll find out soon.
Okay. So I found Spin Magazine did an oral history of Don't You Forget About Me. just for this song and the process of getting it written and recorded for this movie. They had a songwriting team that wrote songs for The Breakfast Club. Like I think we said at the beginning, neither of us realized that Don't You Forget About Me was written for the movie. It wasn't a song that was already out there that they put in the movie. For some reason, the songwriters and one of the producers felt like they had to have an English band. They said that was the vibe they were going for. And I don't know if this had to do with what was popular at the time, if there was like a certain sound within New Wave that had to be British, but they shopped it around to all these British bands. And all these Brits were like, they would show the movie to them, and then they would, a cut of the movie, then they would explain the song. And the British bands would be like, we don't understand. Who's the headmaster? To them, Paul Gleason's character, Vernon, they couldn't wrap their head around, like, who is this dude? Because he's certainly not behaving like a headmaster. They also didn't understand what these kids would be doing at school on a Saturday, not in uniform.
The British, always very proper.
Right? Supposedly, they offered it to Billy Idol at one point. They finally got a yes from Chrissy Hine of the Pretenders. However, part of the contract was that you had to do a music video for the song, because we just heard that was part of the whole marketing package at the time. How funny to think that this was when music videos were big enough that there had to be a music video that MTV could play. However,
Wow.
yeah, Chrissy Hine was pregnant at the time and absolutely refused to do a music video. So she suggested that her husband, who was in Simple Minds, I believe he was the lead singer, take a look at the song and consider doing it. And he and the band were very hesitant because they didn't write the song themselves. They didn't love the idea of doing this. I'm not really sure what happened where they were convinced eventually to record it. Jim Kerr has said that he added the haze in like the beginning of the song and the la la la's at the end, and he felt like they were able to make the song more their own by, you know, adding little things that they came up with.
That's
Apparently
nice.
it is, although apparently the music producer and the songwriters like hated it, especially the la la la's at the end. They were like, what is this? Like who says that? And it's funny to me because these are like the most like iconic parts of the song now, so
Right, yeah.
they really like make it.
It'd be like, listen, you hired us to make a song. I'm not going to say why your movie, we don't like this headmaster situation. You don't talk about my haze and laws, and we'll just agree to disagree.
Yes. Yeah, they had a demo that the songwriters had cut because like one of them could sing, I guess, and they were like, no, do it exactly this way. And so Simple Minds were like, well, okay, then release your version. Like, jeez.
Yeah, right. Then you record it. Oh, wait, you already did. Done.
Yep. They asked, Spin in this article asked Jim Kerr what he thought of The Breakfast Club, the movie, and he said, not as good as Citizen Kane, but not as bad as everything by Quentin Tarantino.
uh, yeah, that's
Yep.
pretty funny.
So,
It's silly to kind of chime in for a second here. When you had mentioned a little bit earlier about something never been done like this before, just these teens talking in a library, essentially.
mhm,
For a half a second, my brain went to Quentin Tarantino because of Reservoir Dogs. Like, it's just
mhm,
five dudes in a room talking, and like
yeah.
it works though. Like, it works sometimes, and this quote comes up. I'm like, oh wow, that's hilarious. I was just kind of comparing the two, and for those specific reasons.
It was funny to me considering at the time that we are recording this episode, Quentin Tarantino's been giving interviews where he's just totally ripping on random actors.
Yeah, I don't
Um, I
understand.
think it was Paul Dano and Matthew Lillard specifically. He just had a lot of really awful things to say about them to the point where all these other actors are taking up for these people that Quentin Tarantino has insulted. It's really out of nowhere. But yes, so Jim Kerr had his own opinions about everything. I don't fully understand what happened, but apparently the band ended up somewhat trash talking the songwriters and music producers in interviews. And then
Hmm.
everything I read in addition to this interview said the band later distanced themselves from the song. And there were things like soundtrack reviews in the Village Voice that were like, this is trite and silly, and Simple Minds were smart to not promote this song or smart to distance themselves from their involvement. So it seems like it happened fairly quickly after the release. I don't really know how they feel about it now, but it was notable in that oral history in Spin. There was just Jim Kerr discussing the recording of the song. No more Jim Kerr quotes until the very end, where they're like, "Well, what did you think of the Breakfast Club?" And then he gave that Citizen Kane Quentin Tarantino quote, and that was it.
Okay.
He didn't have anything else to say
Okay.
about it. So there is bad blood for some reason. There's the band feels conflicted about this song, but I can't really find any specifics other than I think they weren't really down with the whole thing to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It seems like we're missing a piece of the puzzle. I feel
Yes.
like as a band, if that's what you're known for the most,
Hmm.
maybe ouch, I guess, to your creative pride.
I think that's part of it too. It was like far and away their biggest hit, and it wasn't a song they wrote.
It wasn't a song they wrote. They performed it
Hmm.
for a movie. Obviously, there was some heated moments between the people who wrote it and them recording it. And again, like just
Hmm.
fucking record it yourself then if you don't like the way I do it. Why you because
Right.
again, I think it's for the marketing aspect. They want a music video. They didn't want to put like Tom, Dick, and Harry in the music video who wrote the song looking like a bunch of like audio engineers or whatever. Like they wanted somebody
Hmm.
cool, I guess, for MTV, sure. I mean, it all makes sense hearing it without
Yeah.
knowing other things. I'm kind of filling in my own blanks, I suppose. But
Yeah.
yeah, if I guess if I had a bad time doing this, I would want to distance myself from it too. It just sucks that it's probably making them the most money.
But yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes I don't know why these people don't just accept their payday and like at least you're making some money off of it. Maybe that's selling out. I don't know. They're too artistically pure.
I guess that by definition would be selling out. But I
Right.
mean, that's what you're doing. You're trying to make music for money, unless you want to live in your car, but
Yep.
or own a car or own your instruments. Like, there's got to be a balance, I suppose.
Yeah. The poster for the movie, with the five of them and then like Judd Nelson's in the back with his fist up. Did you know Annie Leibovitz did that photo?
I did not know that, and why does that name sound so familiar?
She does a lot of really famous portraiture, like the really famous picture of Yoko Ono with like John Lennon curled up around her,
Okay,
like that photo shoot that Demi Moore did when she was pregnant, and it was like a big deal because she shared her like or she showed her bare pregnant belly on the cover of a magazine. Um,
yeah, okay.
she's a very famous photographer. I didn't realize she did marketing. Like, I don't know, like movie marketing. Just weird. That's all. Okay, so both Molly Ringwald and Anthony Michael Hall had a falling out with John Hughes after this movie was made. Again, not a lot of details, but we know they started dating. They were both 16. Other cast members were more like 20. Anthony Michael Hall claims that the roles of Ducky in Pretty in Pink and Ferris Bueller in Ferris Bueller's Day Off were initially written with him in mind. Molly Ringwald was cast in Pretty in Pink and then was surprised to learn that John Hughes would not be directing her again. He wrote Pretty in Pink. She said that he was on set a lot and he wouldn't speak to her. She and other actors have all said that he was very quick to feel insulted and that he held grudges. She thinks that on her end, it was maybe because as a teenager who suddenly was very famous, she got worried that if she didn't start working with other directors, she might be pigeonholed or that other directors wouldn't hire her. So there was, I think, a movie after Pretty in Pink that he wanted her for, and she had turned it down because she wanted to try to work with other directors, and she wonders if this offended him. And that's when he started distancing himself. But there were also just strange stories about, like, she went home to visit family for a little bit, and while she was out there, she extended her visit to fit in like a doctor's appointment, like a checkup. And he got really mad because he wanted to know why she was staying out there longer and she must be meeting with other directors behind his back. Similar stories were what Anthony Michael Hall maybe thought had happened, just working with other people. He saw that as a diss. There was a quote from Matthew Broderick, even when they were doing Ferris Bueller, that he didn't remember something that happened in the script. And he thought it was just an innocent, like, they hadn't begun work on the movie just yet. They were still scouting locations. He didn't think much of it. But John Hughes took that as a very serious slight, as if he wasn't respecting the script enough. So Matthew Broderick had said something like, at that point, he decided we weren't going to be friends. We were just coworkers. And he like kind of iced me out. This was surprising to me because I feel like in all the other research we've done about John Hughes, he seemed like a really nice guy to work with, doing favors for people that worked with him, giving people jobs. But it seems to be a well known thing about him that he was big on grudges, because all these articles I found after he died, even random film critics who were writing like remembrances of him were like, a famous grudge holder. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it does kind of shock me a little bit considering the other two times he talked about him where everyone had such glowing things to say about him, but
Hmm.
maybe those people didn't get out of his good graces. Maybe they stayed in the sunlight of
Hmm.
John Hughes's orbit.
So
I don't
that's
know. It's
fair. I also think, though, that it's odd that he developed these grudges with teenagers.
well, that was yes, yeah,
Yeah. So later in 2018, Molly Ringwald wrote an opinion piece for The New Yorker. This is when Me Too was very big, the Harvey Weinstein revelations. She dissected some of the objectionable and or sexist material in The Breakfast Club. She mentioned some of his other movies too, because she was also in 16 Candles and Pretty in Pink. Her quote, no one in Hollywood was writing about the minutiae of high school, and certainly not from a female point of view. That two of Hughes's films had female protagonists in the lead roles and examined these young women's feelings about the fairly ordinary things that were happening to them, while also managing to have instant cred that translated into success at the box office, was an anomaly that has never really been replicated. The few blockbuster films starring young women in recent years have mostly been set in dystopian futures or have featured vampires and werewolves. And she's correct as far as I can think of. She says, however, I can see now Bender sexually harasses Claire throughout the film. When he's not sexualizing her, he takes out his rage on her with vicious contempt, calling her pathetic, mocking her as Queenie. It's rejection that inspires his vitriol. Claire acts dismissively towards him, and in a pivotal scene near the end, she predicts that at school on Monday, even though the group is bonded, things will return socially to the status quo. Just bury your head in the sand and wait for your fucking prom, Bender yells. He never apologizes for any of it, but nevertheless, he gets the girl in the end. And I think what I like about these two sets of quotes, though, is that obviously both things can be true at the same time, right? He was a middle-aged man that was actually writing like really good roles for young women, and as she said, getting into just the everyday lives of teenagers, specifically female teenagers who were leading movies, right? And they were just,
right.
especially something like 16 Candles, it's about like this girl's birthday being forgotten. And if you would pitch that as just an elevator pitch, it would be like, well, who cares?
yes,
Right.
right.
And she even said that too. It's that the script was so good that you care about this really silly problem, but to a 16-year-old girl it's a huge problem. But then, as we've said, there were parts of The Breakfast Club alone that were a little shocking to watch back. Very it's unquestionable in certain scenes that Bender is sexually harassing her. It, like we both said, there are times where it really goes too far.
Oh
And
yeah.
you could maybe argue that's part of his characterization. I do think it's interesting that she points out that he gets so mad at her because she dismisses him, because I feel like that's something we're discussing a lot now in the manosphere and whatnot that's so popular, but also this idea that while obviously there were times he was nice to her, he was also so cruel to her, and it's just like, are we gonna forget everything and now I just like you? Because while she obviously comes to feel a certain type of way about him, he could have also backed that up on his side and maybe apologized for being such a jerk.
Yeah. The more we think about it, the more I feel like maybe Siskel was right.
Yeah.
like
Sure,
I
yeah.
like I do like the idea of Brian and Claire. I feel like, for lack of a better term, it's kind of on the old cliche of like the nice girl thinking they could fix the bad boy, kind of. And I feel like she sees good in him, but like I have a feeling he'll never change. He might soften around her privately,
Yes.
but if they were to be going steady or whatever they called it, 1985,
Mhm.
in public, I think he would maybe not say certain things, but definitely still have a chip on his shoulder and an edge. And
Mhm.
he would make it a point to give an excuse why he was with someone like her
Yes. And
because of who he is.
she even says that too in the movie, that you would just tell your friends you're using me to sleep with me.
Right. Or something else would
Yeah.
come up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To make it clear to his friends that he doesn't actually like her as a person or whatever.
Right.
And Molly Ringwald said something about that too, that as she's gotten older, she's sort of seen it as more of, was her character infatuated with the bad boy over just a guy who would treat her nicely? That sort of a thing.
Yeah.
Like you, because you brought up the whole like, oh, maybe I can fix this bad boy
Yeah.
stereotype. Yeah. She ends up talking a lot in the piece about John Hughes coming of age as a writer, where, he was writing for National Lampoon. Crudeness was very popular, dark humor was popular, mocking humor. And also, she sees a lot of the stuff that was in the National Lampoon magazines at the time as a response to the women's liberation movement, what was going on there at that time. And a lot of workplace harassment policies were being put into place. And you saw a lot of jokes countering that in the magazine, like jokes about secretaries and working with women and things like that. And John Hughes had passed away at this point. She ended up talking to Ted Mann, who worked with John Hughes at National Lampoon. He co wrote some comedic pieces with him. He's actually a fairly high profile showrunner now. At the time, he was the showrunner for Homeland, that with Claire Danes, that was on, I think it was on Showtime. He said, "It wouldn't fly today and it never should have flown then," adding, "These were degenerate cocaine days."
Yes, I'm sure they were. You just imagine like in like 40 years from now, when we're 80 doing this podcast and be like, oh,
Yeah.
back in the day it was okay because THC became a common thing.
Yeah.
Everyone was doing this because of this reason. And it's like I've heard this cocaine excuse
Mm-hmm.
before, Stephen King, and feel
Jeez.
like it's acceptable to be unacceptable.
Well, and it's just, I agree with all of that. I just also think it's funny that the whole explanation, it was like, yeah, I was just on so much coke.
Just so much coke.
Yeah. So in 2005, the movie received the Silver Bucket of Excellence Award at the MTV Movie Awards. I only threw that in because we somehow keep having notes about the MTV Movie Awards.
What is
Um,
Silver Bucket Award?
it was something they made up as like an anniversary award.
Okay, fair enough. Okay.
I don't know if it's ever been given out before or since, but this Silver Bucket of Excellence was received by Ali Sheedy, Molly Ringwald, and Anthony Michael Hall. For the love of God, tell me that's the right name.
Those are the right names, yes.
Okay. The janitor, the guy who played the janitor, was in the audience. I don't know why they did not invite him on stage. The actor who played Vernon presented them with the award. He was in the movie as well. He could have also gotten the award. I don't know.
Yeah.
MTV's weird. But In 2010, this was the year after John Hughes died. The main cast, aside from Emilio Estevez, appeared at the Academy Awards to pay tribute to John Hughes. He had passed away in 2009. They also were there with John Cryer, who was in Pretty in Pink, Matthew Broderick, obviously in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone. There seems to be this little history of them all appearing together, except for Emilio Estevez. He just kept saying he was busy doing other things. So in 2025, for the 40th anniversary, finally all five of them were together for a pop culture convention in Chicago called C2E2. And they were all making jokes about Emilio Estevez really being here and they could like burn his cardboard cutout because I don't know when he had ever appeared with them. He said it was important to be there because it was in Chicago where the movie took place. They said overall, for a lot of them, this was like one of the most fun movies they've ever made, one of the most fun sets. So, this 40th anniversary, there wasn't a whole lot of quotes I could pull. Ali Sheedy said it was that shooting this movie is one of the happiest times of her life and that they really all do love each other. But overall, in every interview I read, in every cast history, whatever, it seemed like it was a really fun set. They had a lot of fun together, despite Judd Nelson method acting the whole time. And they really did
Ugh.
bond. They said Ali Sheedy, I think, still keeps in touch with Molly Ringwald. Anthony Michael Hall and Molly Ringwald are still close. They had acted together for a while and then dated for a little bit after The Breakfast Club. Judd Nelson and Emilio Estevez became good friends. And they all had really nice things to say about John Hughes, despite none of them really talking to him after this.
Despite the grudges
Despite the grudges, yeah, it was weird.
that seem to be one sided.
Molly Ringwald said there was this period where she was watching a lot of Francois Truffaut movies, and he had worked with a younger actor, done, I think, 3 movies with him, and it made her think of her and John Hughes when she was younger, and she wrote him this letter about what a great time that was in her life and how much he meant to her and how much he helped her career because she did genuinely feel all these things. It sounded like she just sort of wasn't sure what to do with her career and she was also young. That's why I think it's also weird for like this grown man to be like possibly offended by this teenage girl, but whatever.
Right.
But he ended up sending her back a huge bouquet of flowers. So she feels like they sort of kind of made up a little bit, at least before he passed away. They still weren't really in constant contact, but she feels like at least he read her letter and acknowledged it.
So that's good.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious why Emilio wasn't around for all these other meetups because, like, I don't want to be mean, but what was he doing? Like, besides Mighty Ducks, which was before all these other dates,
One
like,
of At one of the events, I don't remember which one, they were saying he was doing Mighty Ducks 5, so he couldn't be there.
nice.
So,
Mighty Ducks 5, still quacking. I remember that one.
yeah. Do you have anything else you would like to add?
Who were you in the Breakfast Club in high school? The closest possible. Which character
Oh,
were you?
I
Realistically.
feel like I was somewhere between Brian and Allison because I felt a lot of pressure about my grades, not necessarily from my parents though. My parents were cool. I very much when I was younger bought into that whole like got to get good grades so I can get a scholarship so I can afford college because like sports scholarships were not going to be a thing for me. But I wasn't just like naturally great at science or math, so I wasn't like the kind of kid that would join physics club. Let's say that. Like I worked really hard to try to keep my grades up because I felt like that was just what I had to do in order to, I don't know, eventually have a halfway decent job. Like then I grew up and, found out it's all a lie. But but I had a good group of friends, but I guess I still felt like an outcast sometimes. So in that way, I could identify a little bit with Allison's character. I don't know. I listened to punk music and I there were a couple times like kids would hassle me in the hallway because of like some of the patches I had on my book bag or whatever. So I feel like I'm somewhere between that. But like my parents were nice and cool. So I didn't have
Sure,
that
sure.
baggage at least.
Right. Yeah, right. That's good. Good to hear. I think closest would probably be Brian.
Okay.
That was in honors classes and stuff
Mhm.
like that, but didn't have the pressure like you said. In some other weird way, though, I felt at least at the time of their age, like I could have also been lumped with a Bender or Allison, but not for the same reasons.
Okay.
I was like, I feel like I was a popular, unpopular kid. I think I had a
Okay.
lot of pockets of friends from different, like I had Claire friends and Bender friends and Andrew friends and stuff like that. So I was, I guess, kind of a floater.
Okay.
But if someone were to put me in one of the five groups, it'd probably be a Brian. Like I did wrestling and football, but I wasn't a jock.
Okay.
I did each for like 1 year to try it out, and it wasn't my thing. So then that's when I started playing music, and I felt like more of like the Bender Allison, but not like purposely pushing myself away from other people or being a rebel for rebel's sake.
Yeah, I feel like when you're like into music, like you sort of get put in this like weird, like kind of quasi outsider or rebel category that like you're not really trying to be in. But then also, I was in Girl Scouts and I was in drama club, so that almost is more like a Claire. So like I don't
Yeah,
know. But like
I will
I
say that.
pretty much exclusively wore black. Like my
Okay,
the way I dressed, I was Allison. 1000%.
I had a lot of concert T-shirts, which mostly were black, and then just blue jeans for the most part.
Hmm.
So I just kind of air quotes normal clothes. I don't know. I would say the character I think I related to the most, though, I think personality wise, is Andrew. I feel like he's always trying to do the good thing. Like he's like very honest and earnest. There's that word again. Um,
I could see that though, like as a personality trait, yeah.
yeah, he sticks up for I think all of them at some point in different ways. Um,
Yes, I agree. And I specifically remember thinking this when I watched it as a younger person. Like, I would have been horrified that the janitor felt I was mocking him, like, especially coming from like a blue collar kind of family. Um,
exactly. Yep.
yeah, so I would like to think that I wasn't quite as much of an asshole as a teenager. So, despite what the patches on my backpack maybe had people thinking. Yeah, so I just wanted to point out before we wrap up that if you would like to hear more of us discussing John Hughes's career, I already mentioned episode 26, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and his later career, episode 27, Home Alone. So before we officially wrap up, did this hold up for you?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, minus some of the parts we mentioned that maybe didn't age well, those didn't hold up.
Right.
Definitely didn't like the idea of Bender sticking his head up her skirt, and some of the language, some of the slurs, I guess, also probably
Mm-hmm.
didn't hold up. But as an idea, a concept, and an actual film, yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. This view, I haven't seen it in a long time. I do remember at school in college, I think there was a screenwriting class I took or something similar, and this is one of the scripts we talked about. This and Finding
Okay.
Nemo, for some reason, I remember that
Okay.
as just like great examples of great writing.
Okay.
And it's probably also where I might have seen the film for my first time, like
Mm-hmm.
as start to finish type thing. And
Okay.
so that sticks out to me. And yeah, I was enjoying the film a lot, watching it.
You watched this
Had
in
a
your
like,
screenwriting class? We had to discuss the War of the Worlds remake with Tom Cruise in my screenwriting class.
hmm, interesting.
He loved Tom Cruise, the professor. Yeah, I would say maybe more than other movies we've discussed, this had more. scenes that maybe don't look as great watching it back now. But like overall, I would absolutely watch this again. I feel like this is definitely the kind of movie that I got something different out of watching at different ages. It was insane to watch it this time, realizing I'm like the teacher's age now, because I feel like you spend so much time watching something like this relating to the younger characters, and then you're like, oh, oh no. But yeah, and apparently this is one of the few times I've watched it in a non-edited for television way, so that was a slightly different experience as well.
I feel at 40, I still relate to the teenagers than the principal. I'm putting that out there.
I mean, technically, I do as well, especially because their principal's such an ass. Like, he is so over the top. But I just realizing age wise, I
Yes,
am,
yes.
because, like, I don't know about you, but I still think of myself as a young adult, like, fresh out of college. And apparently, I'm not.
Where are your patches now, Rachel?
You know, it's a good question.
I think though, if I'm going to say who I relate to, maybe the most honestly as a 40-year-old person, because saying that is one of the five high schoolers, maybe not as super truthful, because
Hmm.
I just know I don't relate to the principal. Carl, the janitor. This guy just wants to go to work and drink a beer.
Yeah,
He's
that's
just
fair.
chill.
He's, yeah. I feel like the one good thing about like being this age is that my interests have at least caught up with my age in terms of just like hanging out, not putting
Naps.
too much on my plate. Yeah. Naps, drinking occasionally. All right.
Anyway,
We would love to hear your thoughts on The Breakfast Club as well as your own favorite film from 1985. You can find us on Instagram at Back Through the Lens Pod and on Facebook at Back Through the Lens. You can also email us at backthroughthelenspodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave us a rating and review. It's the best way to support our show.
if you enjoyed our show today, please give us a like and follow for updates on new and future episodes. Our show is produced by our hosts, Rachel Campbell, and myself, Joe Siomek, with additional help and support from Peter Tellup of LPV Productions. Peter, Rachel, and I are also the executive producers. Our awesome logo is brought to you by Tom Faraci, and our wonderful theme song is by Matt Tarek. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more trips into our movie watching past on Back Through the Lens. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I need a snack.
Should I redo that?
Yes, please. That was very loud.